Alarm clock for this week. Thanks to everyone who got in touch with the show. Thanks to Donna Marie and Caroline for their help as well. I'll talk to you next week. Up next is Greg Hughes with the 9 till noon show. Morning, Greg.
You're not here tomorrow, no?
No, off on leave.
Right, enjoy it.
You're not getting enough out of me this week.
I know, I want 6 days out of 7 if
here,
possible.
come on.
All right, enjoy your weekend then.
Will do.
Well earned. Okay, it's the 9 till noon show. Our Friday panel has joined us. We'll be introducing them to you and, of course, the rest of Friday's 9 till noon show after we get a news update now. And it's Good Morning, Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. There's a flicker of optimism that issues around the Northern Ireland Protocol can be resolved, according to Foreign Affairs Minister Simon Coveney. He says he believes the British government is acting in good faith in reaching out to Dublin and Brussels. The minister met his British counterpart last night and will co-chair the British-Irish Intergovernmental Conference in London today. Minister Coveney says there has been an improvement in dealings with Britain.
So I think we've created a flicker of optimism that both sides can work towards resolving some of these outstanding protocol issues that have been outstanding for far too long and, of course, have caused enormous polarisation of opinion in Northern Ireland and a lot of tension as well.
The Environmental Protection Agency says the quality of drinking water from public supplies remains high, with over 99.7% of samples nationally compliant with bacterial and chemical limits. However, it's critical of Irish water after incidents in Gorey and Ballymore Eustace were found to have put over 1,000 people at risk. There are now 3 Donegal supplies on the EPA's remedial action list: Milford, Glenties Ardra and Leitrimach Ward, where a boil notice remains in place. Minister Simon Harris is in Letterkenny today as part of a conference exploring the potential of the Northwest. The event at the ATU's Letterkenny campus will hear from Minister Harris. He'll outline the government's commitment to supporting educational collaboration on an all-Ireland basis. With more, here's Micheal Clark.
Today's conference will examine cross-border activity taking place in the region and hear about plans for future collaboration in terms of employment and education, with partners working in collaboration to provide leadership, opportunity and the development of a talent pipeline for the Northwest and beyond. The event has been organised by the Northwest Tertiary Education Cluster, comprising of the ATU, Donegal ETB, Ulster University and the Northwest Regional College. The cluster was established with the aim to bring about real and positive change to the region by supporting enhanced economic prosperity and social benefits through education and employment. Over 150 delegates will hear remarks from Minister Simon Harris and renowned economist David McWilliams, who will share his views on the best practice for transforming the Northwest into a growing economy.
And a meeting was held last evening to discuss safety measures at Inaloch in Derry following a double drowning tragedy over the summer. The meeting, called by the Mayor, Sandra Duffy, agreed that Derry City and Strabane District Council, along with statutory agencies and the local communities, will liaise with the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents to explore the possibility of them carrying out an initial scoping exercise. With more details on that, here's Donna Marie Doherty.
The meeting was convened in response to the tragic passing of Reuven Simon and Joseph Sebastian, who died after getting into difficulty while swimming with friends in the loch in late August. The meeting of politicians and community representatives was organised to examine what possible additional safety measures could be made to the amenity. The meeting heard that while Council has no statutory responsibility for waterways and water safety or any ownership of the lands at Inaloch, it has taken a proactive approach through engagement with a range of stakeholders and interested parties to carry out exploratory works to help identify roles and responsibilities at the loch. It was acknowledged that ownership and responsibility for Inaloch is fragmented, with several different landowners owning various parts around the edge of the loch and some of the bed and soil of the loch. All partners agreed that a joint multi-agency approach was the best way forward, with the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents being asked to assess the law and provide a report with recommendations on water safety.
Sunny spells and scattered showers today, that rain heavy or thundery at times, becoming isolated toward evening. Feeling cold with moderate to fresh and gusty west to southwest winds. Afternoon highs today 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock.
Thinking about joining AIB? What if by changing your bank, you could also change the way you bank?
Just watch.
At AIB, we don't make technology for you to bank, we make it for you to live, with all your everyday banking needs at your fingertips. Joining AIB takes just a few simple steps. Discover how to become a customer by visiting aib.ie. AIB, we back doing. Allied Irish Banks plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Just like that.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
All right, good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9, Friday the 7th of October 2022. It's the last show of the week and you're very welcome along to it. Our Friday panel with us right now. But before we introduce them, just to remind you that we want to hear what you have to say, to get your views as well, your input. 086 60 25,000, WhatsApps and texts to that number. Give us a call, please, on 07491 25,000. Caroline and Donna Marie taking your calls there. Or you can, of course, email comments at highlandradio.com. If you choose to watch the programme, if that suits your lifestyle and where you're at, go onto our website, highlandradio.com, click the Watch Live button, or go onto YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. And Facebook, and you can hit the bell. You'll know when we're going live. All right, let's say hello now to Rosa Glacken, Regional President of St. Vincent de Paul Northwest. Good morning, Rosa.
Morning, Greg, and good morning to your listeners.
It's good to have you with us. Also, Paddy
Thank you for having
Rooney.
me.
It's good to have you, Rosa. Paddy Rooney, PRO of Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital. Good morning.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. And Councillor Mary-Therese Gallagher, Sinn Féin Councillor in the Glentees Municipal District. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, okay. We'll start with you, Rosa, if that's okay, as Regional President of St. Vincent de Paul. Just a question for you in terms of the amount of contacts you're receiving now, the level of support that's being required. Are you seeing an increase?
Yes, Greg. Even before the budget, we had an increase of 20% nationwide, and we have no doubt that will rise. Now, with regard to the budget, initially I thought, there were quite a lot of benefits coming the way of people with the double payments now in October and December, double children's allowance and so on. And then in the new year, then there's a €12 increase in weekly benefits. However, what would concern us is when you get money altogether like that, if you don't manage it properly and plan ahead, the purpose for most of that would be towards the winter fuel, and in the lead up to Christmas, people might be tempted, to use it unwisely, should we say. So we would be concerned also with the rising costs, as you know, of the cost of living and fuel. And the weekly allowance, the weekly fuel allowance, would not even cover one bag of coal now. And as you know, a lot of people around the Northwest use an open fire or depend on a back boiler. So if we have a bad winter, I reckon there could be a huge surge in demand.
Yeah, and you can see it's a notable increase in the amount of people, say, for instance, using social media to try and source the likes of turf and wood, clearly trying to avoid the steep cost of coal and trying to keep their houses warm for the winter.
Yes, it's a great concern because, it's already turned very cold. And, then from the oil point of view, if we were helping a lot of people with oil, we wouldn't be able to do it because it's gone so expensive. Even half a tank, 500 litres, is about 600 or 700. So
yeah, 620 I think at the moment.
Yeah,
but they know it's going up the way because of the recent announcements as it relates to oil production.
Yes. So, we would hope that people would use these new benefits that are coming along, use them wisely and stock up on the fuel and prepare for the winter.
But that's that I mean, for a lot of families, so that's a choice of, and I'm choosing my words carefully, that's a choice over, money management, like you say, or Christmas.
Yes, absolutely, Greg. So what I'm saying is that going forward into the new year, I don't think people will be a lot better off. Because we had, we have a social justice group who lobby government, and they did ask for at least €20 a week to keep people above the poverty line And by our reckoning, there will be more people sinking into poverty because there are so many other costs.
Yeah.
And I'm also always very concerned, as I said, for the Northwest, because so many are dependent on their car, not only to go to work, but for hospital appointments, to shopping and so on. So they need their cars, and it's added pressure on families, especially families on low income.
Yeah, and just one final question before we bring the rest of the guests in then. I mean, we have been seeing it, I think, for some time, but are we seeing more of it that people perhaps who are working, even both people, if there's two in the house working, are now trying to access your services? There was a trend. Are we seeing that ramp up? In other words, effectively the working poor.
That's exactly what I've been told.
Okay.
I've been with our head office in Refugee and around the country. There is an increase, and we're glad to see people who've never come to us before accessing our service. But it's indicative of the times. These are people who are working, but as you say, low income, and the income isn't stretching to cover costs.
Paddy Rooney, is it realistic to have an expectation that a government or a budget could announce a budget that would solve a lot of the problems that we're facing now, particularly given the national and global situation?
I don't think so, because the problem is inflation, and this apparently is a result of the markets started correcting themselves after all of the money that Western countries in the Western world put into the economies during COVID. And we now have a situation where there is too much money chasing too few goods. And I think that anywhere that has ever been tried, where governments have tried to get ahead of inflation or tried to cushion people from it, it just can't be done, because they end up making things worse. I suppose the sad thing about all of this is that the average industrial wage now, apparently I've seen it recently, is about 32,000. And you still have to pay income tax at 20% on that, even though you'll have tax credits to offset some of that. And you have universal social charge and PRSI. And there's absolutely no way in the wide world that I think that people are going to have the same standard of living.
But I think also
coming up
too,
to Christmas
and not crying poor mouth or anything, but I would be very surprised if the average wage in Donegal would be 32. I can imagine that might be a national figure, and you're correct there. But I mean, we have notoriously low wages here.
There is the average wage, which is about 48,000, and there's the average industrial wage that takes into account about a bundle of about 17 or 18 sort of skilled trades people and of that ilk. But you're right, because there are people then that are in a wage a lot lower than that. And many people then, of course, will be able to apply for income supplement from the Department of Social Inclusion. But I don't think that people are going to be able to manage. I wish, that the government and all the political class would be honest with the people and tell them out straight, rather than putting measures in place in the budget that they say, look, we're giving you all these things. So here we are, happy days. Because there is no way in the wide world that many people in this country are going to have the same standard of living next year as they had 2 years ago. It's not going to be that way, because things is probably going to get incrementally worse. Rosa will know this much better than me, but every single household, regardless of their income, Greg, have a hierarchy of expenditure. And the first thing is the rent has to be paid, because the funny thing is banks don't like us not paying the mortgage. They come knocking on the door if we don't do that. Landlords don't like us not paying rent. They want to throw us out on the streets. So those are the very first things that most families have to pay for. And the next thing is food. Just from a personal experience yesterday, I had to put on 2 tires on my car yesterday that was unplanned expenditure. Okay, there was a puncture in one of them. Tire couldn't be repaired, so the other one wasn't in good shape either. That was 2. And when I got home, then there was an email to say that my TV license was up. And those are the kind of bills that are coming through the door that are going to cripple people, because planned expenditure is one thing about your rent and your food. You can actually plan for that, and you can cut your cloth accordingly. But it's the unplanned bills that come, and they keep coming, and that's what's going to cripple people.
So with all of that in mind, there was an €11 billion budget announced, a lot of people who don't fall into the categories that we're talking about are going to benefit. Do you think the government should have put more emphasis on a targeted approach so that we found out those that need the money most and diverted it towards them, and then those who can tighten their belts and still survive, they might huff and they might puff, but they will survive, but we ensure that as much of the money that we have to help goes to those that we genuinely know need the help?
That seems the right thing to do, Greg.
So why do we resist doing so, Paddy?
Hold on. We've had a discussion now on numerous occasions about children's allowance in this country. So it's paid to every mother in the country who has children up to 16 years of age or whatever it is. And the argument being put forward about why it's not targeted is that it would cost so much to administer the targeting than it would to just pay it to everybody. So I don't know, is it possible to target people that easy? If it's possible to target them, why shouldn't we be doing that? But being able to target people, there must be a mechanism to do it. I can't give you the answer to that right now, and it seems the right thing to do.
But we can target people with the double welfare payment, for example. There are databases of people that are on benefits. Their income is declared, their situation is stated. I think the majority of them perhaps would be already covered by special payments, for example, fuel allowance. We know who has fuel allowance. We know who has children. We know who has children, but also receive other benefits. I just think, I wonder, has a department sat down and analysed, an alternative budget where money goes to those that genuinely need it?
You could, but remember this concept now, the squeezed middle. You could be on an income, would say, for instance, a household income of €50,000 a year. And there was a time when that was a very good salary. It's not now if you're paying a mortgage of about 11 or 1,200 a month. If you're paying €1,000 a month for childcare, you've all the other associated costs. You find out that you have no money to save for a rainy day or whatever. So it's the people that are getting state benefits. Yeah, it's easy to target them, but there are a lot of others that you're moving up the social classes up to this famous squeezed middle. That the political parties keep talking about. That they have the appearance of being well off, but they're not. They're actually treading water, and they're just living from day to day with all with the huge cost that they have out there.
Yep, and the two tires, and
all of that,
the two tires, and the two tires, and the TV license.
The TV license, and all of that.
That's the problem. Marie-Therese, obviously, you would be dealing directly with the public as well, and you'd get a very good sense of what's going on out there. Are you seeing a change?
Yeah, Greg, I suppose the one thing I have noticed is that people are talking about it. It's very open. I'm sure in every household all the time, between ourselves, we would say, oh, that bill's in or that bill's in. You meet people now everywhere and they say, did you get the bill? And there's a dread of everything, any bill coming through the door. And I agree with what Paddy was saying, anything that goes above, like, so that if the washing machine breaks down, what do we do? Like, we just don't have the mechanism to feed ourselves, house ourselves, and get a new washing machine. And those are the kind of things that do cripple people.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to come back after we take a quick break. Marie-Therese Gallagher's connection is just not fantastic there. It's probably a blip. I think there are some broadband issues going on around the Northwest actually this morning. But we'll be back with more from our guests after this break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans.
Since she got her free hearing aids with her PRSI at Specsavers, Roisin is a changed woman. Music has never sounded better, and that makes her dance. And dance. And dance. Her singing, though, well...
Free hearing aids with PRSI at Specsavers. Music to your ears. Find out more online. Terms and conditions apply.
Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. Your favourite brands with the best advice on running. Cloudflow and Cloud Swift in new colours just arrived. Energise your stride with a new Hoka Bondi 8 for men and women with softer, lighter foam for enhanced durability and comfort. Step into a pair of waterproof Gore-Tex trainers from Asics and Brooks. Look the part, play the part, in-store and online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
MichaelHoney's.com celebrates 10 years online this week and the launch of its newly revamped website. To celebrate, Michael Henny's is holding a week-long birthday bash with 15% off almost everything in-store and online. Some minor exclusions may apply. Check out the new website today to experience Michael Henny's 5-star service for yourself and save 15% off almost everything for 1 week only.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €55 million. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Let Joe McGee Butchers feed your family with their 5 for €20 deal. Choose from our fantastic deli range. Lasagnas, cottage pie, chicken curry and soups. Just a sample of our fine products all made in-store only at Joe McGee Butchers, Letterkenny and Glencar shopping centres. Find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Have you bought your NCBI Radio Bingo book yet? Contribute to this fantastic charity and be in with a chance to win daily cash prizes of €400. Books are now available from your local retailer.
All right, Councillor Martires, you were just, we heard pretty much everything you had to say, but you were underlining the point that Paddy Rooney was making there as it relates to these, unplanned expenses and the devastating impact it can have.
Yeah, I suppose what I was saying was actually with the St. Vincent de Paul over the years and dealing with families, I would have dealt with, as I say, as a smaller thing as a school uniform to a major thing as of burying a loved one. And the St. Vincent de Paul has always been there, and it's a terrible time when people have to go looking for help. But I think from listening to what Rosa has said, I think we need to come up with some sort of solutions to actually let everybody float a little bit. I don't know, and I'm frightened listening to Rosa of a 20% increase at this stage of the year and calls to St. Vincent de Paul and how that's actually going to progress over the rest of the year. And we need to all, because I think sometimes we look at each other and say, oh, well, they're getting double payment or they're getting 500 and I'm getting nothing and I can't feed my children and I can't heat my house, I can't pay my mortgage. And it's nobody's fault. And that, we shouldn't look at each other. And we should really be trying now at this stage, I think, to be coming up with solutions to where families are at. And the other thing, Greg, in all of this is like you have the likes of schools now who, all of their costs have gone up, their electricity, their
oil. I don't want to get it on the schools because schools at the same time. But at the same time, I know schools that are changing uniforms again. I know schools that are insisting on branded. It makes me rage every time I hear it, and I'm not being ignorant to you. I hope it don't. But I know what you're going to talk about.
Let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is what has happening at the schools now is they're all creating, like say a draw or a fundraising and all the rest of it, which comes back on the parents again, and they're doing it for the right reasons. And I suppose that's the point I'm making is that
of course
there's another pocket for every penny that's coming in the door.
For sure, and maybe the parents would have more money to contribute to the schools if they had to, if they didn't have to spend a fortune on specific branded stuff. I read today that just 3 counties account for more than 40% of Ukrainians housed in temporary or emergency accommodation, such as hotels. Figures released by the Department of Integration show there are now 38,212 Ukrainians who have a status as beneficiaries of temporary protection being accommodated by the state. Donegal has the third highest amount of refugees, 1,971. And just at the same time, and I'm sure it's somewhat connected, there's a motion before the council from Liam Blaney who says that this council requests that the Minister for Children and so on and so forth, Roderick O'Gorman, suspend the introduction of any further refugees to Donegal until a full inspection and report takes place of the conditions of accommodation for those currently here and analysis of services available to them, including educational, health, social integration at community level. And we also know, of course, that GPs' practices and a hospital are seeing an influx of numbers, and that is being driven to some extent by a rapidly increasing population. So with all that in mind, Paddy Rooney, is this something, do you think, that we need to look at? We know that we're helping people fleeing a dire situation, because whilst not much of Ukraine necessarily is in active war, we know Vladimir Putin at any moment could discharge his weapons or a tactical nuke or whatever it might be. So we know people are struggling. But can Donegal do much more at this stage with everything else that's going on, Paddy?
Well, Greg, we started off, it was somewhere around March or April, or around about that time, when refugees from Ukraine who were fleeing the war came to this country, and it was given over to the Irish Red Cross at the time to be able to manage that. In a very short period of time, anyway, they got overwhelmed by it. Then local authorities weren't able to chew it either, so therefore it was given over to the market here, and that's what has happened here. So I'm afraid it's a bit rich of the political class now to be coming out and to be criticising about what's going on when they literally, to all intents and purposes, wash their hands of it here, because the market has responded. And I'm not condoning anything that's going on here, any sharp practices or whatever, if they are taking place or whatever. But somebody, I can't remember who said in your program within the last couple of weeks, you can't let perfection get in the way of good. I mean, we had a situation where in various places, in community halls in Dublin, and was it tents in Gorman's College, where that's where people were being housed. It turned out to be one night, then it went into 2 nights, then it went into a week. At least people are being housed and their children in some conditions, and their children are going to school in some conditions or whatever, and at least they're in a place of safety. I don't know enough about this because I've never actually been in a place, but I actually know a gentleman who actually has people from Ukraine in a house of his, and the fire authorities expect it, the local authorities come around to have a look at it. It doesn't, from the little bit that I know, it doesn't seem to be a wheelbarrow and shovel job, that there is some level of regulation to it. I mean, what did you say we have in Donegal? Is it about 4,000?
Almost 2,000 now.
Almost 2?
Yeah.
4,000,
almost, yeah? Sorry, no, it is 1,971. That's as of...
that figure is actually higher than that, Greg. I'm afraid. The Chirconnell Tribune has a figure higher than that. It's not on the front page this week.
I'm just going by. But anyway, let's take the 4,000.
Yeah.
As I said,
So anyway,
Ukrainians based in emergency or serviced accommodation. So there are different, there's going to be different categories. So that's those that are in emergency or serviced accommodation.
I'm of the view anyway, Greg, that we have to do this. And if it's not perfect, we have to do it. I've been on your program before, and I've given instances before where this country turned their back on people in the Second War, in Germany in the Second World War, and the Vietnamese boat people in the 70s. We can't, do we learn nothing in this country? Do we never change our mind on anything? This is something we have to do. If it's not perfect in the short term, so be it. A lot of these unfortunate people, Greg, are never going to go home, and many, many more of them are going to be here for a very, very long time. So there's no point saying this is going to be 6 months. And I think with the period of time, these people will integrate and assimilate into society, but they have to be given time to do it.
Okay, is it possible, though, that, and I don't know your circumstances, I'm certainly not asking them, Paddy, but it's just to tease that, is it possible, though, that, if you were struggling to find a house yourself, that your views might be different? If you... were on a lower welfare payment, for example, than the refugees. If you were maybe facing eviction because you can't pay your rent, and as I say, I'm not trying to paint you into a corner on this, but that's the experience of an awful lot of people out there. And then they see how another group of people we can understand that then maybe their view might not be quite as
I know.
So how do we address that?
That is a very, very valid sentiment to express, Greg. I mean, my heart went out to a couple of people that were given personal testimonies on your program yesterday about the standard of their houses due to Mike is about to fall down, and their issue is the fact that how come that they're not being supported by the state the same way as the people that are fleeing the war. That is but that is a totally different argument. There's no point in saying just because we don't 3-decks that we should abandon why it's, I mean, in principle, that's what we shouldn't be doing that.
Councillor Mary-Therese Gallagher, what's your view?
Yeah, I was shocked actually when you read out the number of 1971, because I was at a meeting there 2 weeks ago, and every group in the county that's meant to be dealing with the Ukrainians had different numbers.
So just to be absolutely clear, and I should have been at the beginning, these are those that would be housed in the likes of hotels, a house with multiple double bunk beds in, that type of stuff, that type of environment. But we can we can also discuss it in the context of a 4,000 plus figure, because I'm sure we're still punching well above our weight. So let's go with the 4,000, because that's the all-in figure, Marie-Therese.
Yeah, no, listen, this is it's a really divisive, unfortunately it has become divisive in our local communities, subject. The services is the big one for me. I see people who are here through no fault of their own. Of course we should be welcoming everybody who is fleeing for more. That's a given. But to put people into small rural communities, all dotted around Donegal, and not to put the services and to support them, I think is just wrong. I think it's going to create more issues than it's going to solve for these people. From 4:30, 5 o'clock, Greg, in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be dark outside. You're going in, me and you can go home, close the door, put on the fire, watch a bit of television. We're not sitting in a place maybe with 2 or 3 bunk beds, 3 or 4 people we never met in our lives until a month ago.
So what's the alternative, though? Because the premise is that, for the question is, they are fleeing a war-torn country. So if you're in 12 of you in a house in rural Kilcar, you're not going to face the threat of a potential tactical nuke, for example. Do you know what I mean? So, what do you do then with these people? Do you?
I think the thing with the accommodation, Greg, and I would like to make this very clear, there are a few who are cashing in. I would say that, and there's no point in me dressing it up any other way. There are a few who cashed in at a very early stage and who have been going around the county looking for places to put as many Ukrainians in as possible, not thinking of, the place that they're going, the services that's available, or indeed even having a kitchen on site or anything like that. It was just, it's money. And then there are the majority, and I know of them here locally, who kept families for months at the beginning. Never look for a penny. There are still people living in homes here from Ukraine that people have handed over. And the real goodness of the people of Donegal is there. I thought there was a want to help. I know of a lot of people who had offered the homes who still have never got contacted.
So, but what do you say? This recent motion is going.
What the department have done is they have just said, we need to get these people anywhere we want, put a price on it, and that's what we'll do.
Yeah. So the people then who might take issue with that might look to their local representatives like you for support or some guidance. This motion I talk of here is focused on the Letterkenny Municipal District area, of course, but it might be brought to full council level. What do you say to constituents who are, all the situations I outlined, they are struggling, they're not in proper housing, they're couch surfing, they're in a mica-affected home, they can't get emergency accommodation, and they look around them and, there's various levels of accommodation for refugees, but they wonder, well, where is the help for us? And they look to people like you, elected reps, to say, well, what is the solution? What do you think? What can you say? I am not trying to pitch one group of people against another, but that people that, and they're not racist, they're not anything, but they know there's a problem here as well. Do you know what I mean? So what do you say to them?
That's the reality. I just literally yesterday had 2 people on to me about they'd moved to the area, they're from here but moved home and couldn't get a GP, and they had to go to another small community where they got one. And why do we have to travel to get a GP? And the GP, so it's not putting in the services, Greg, is what's causing the issue on the ground. It's not having extra places within the GP. It's putting extra supports into schools. So is that that the language barrier can be dealt with.
Do you want to come back in briefly, Paddy, there? And then I want to.
I do. There's 2 things, Greg. It's not fair and it's not reasonable to put people that are in unfortunate circumstances pitted against each other. people that are fleeing war versus people who are
Do you
homeless
believe this
versus
is what
people
this
who are living
conversation is doing? Do you believe this conversation is doing that?
It is. It's actually, and the second point of it is that it is, the government agencies and the local authority has to take some responsibility here. I mean, we don't do regulation in this country at all by the looks of things. So I see that motion that's down there, and it's all about, packing people into houses. That's not really the fault of the market who's actually doing that. Has the state washed its hands completely of this? Is there nobody coming around to say this is what the standard is? If that's the square footage available, that's the maximum number of people you can put in there. I mean, has the state washed its hands completely of this now and just thrown it completely over to the market?
But Paddy, just in relation to pitching groups against each other, right? If you have a lot of people listening to this program, okay, who see problems in their own family members themselves struggling to get accommodation, struggling to get help, okay, and then they see another group of people that we seemingly are doing everything we can to help, okay, like, I can't ignore those emotions and not discuss this because it's being seen as pitching groups against each other. It has to be talked about, doesn't it? It's best to talk about it publicly because that's what people on the streets are talking about.
Yes, but in principle, what is meant to happen here is that this is meant to be a short-term solution to a humanitarian crisis, okay? So the current system that's in place for housing, we should stop calling them refugees, the human beings that are coming from Ukraine. This is meant to be a short-term area to accommodate them until they can either do one of two things, until they go home or they assimilate into Irish society, because lots and lots of these people are never going to go home because they're going to get in. And that's what it's meant, and we should be treating it as such, not turning it into something else. Because
but we have two significant accommodation developments, okay, that were, for right or wrong, people had been looking on thinking, okay, this might sort out some of the issues in our area. Two significant developments of accommodation that come to mind. Now, a decision was made by private individuals, and they're free to do whatever they want to do with their private property, okay? The decision was made instead to make these available to home refugees. Now, it's obvious that is going to cause a great deal of upset. There's no communication, there's no explanation, there's no talk of short term, there's no talk of, this is why we're doing it. And those concerns are there, and they have to be addressed either by a conversation like this, or the local council, or the
I know, Greg, but some, and I know one of the developments you're talking about is only about a 15-minute drive from your office there, right? But some arm of the state, as in the Department of Foreign Affairs or the Department of Children or whatever it is, they're actually made a decision, though, to fund putting families into those houses. And so there's no point in saying that some individual who owned those and the market did that. Some arm of the state has actually trumped or gazumped the Donegal County Council or whoever was going to put those houses forward. So government are actually complicit in this too, because they're actually funding it and they're agreeing with this and they're supporting this.
Rosa, thanks for your patience. I'm very interested in what you have to say as well.
Well, I'm listening very carefully, and I think these points are extremely valid, and you have mentioned that risk of divisiveness, and one of the things we've come across is a lot of our members are very conscious of, and Mary Trace possibly knows this as well, where you have direct provision. And we have people in direct provision, and they don't have the same entitlements, but they are also fleeing strife in their own countries, and some, they're not allowed to work. They have to wait. It seems to me an inordinate length of time, and they're on very, very low income. They also have difficulty getting their children into schools. So that's a third strand to it. But I appreciate what you're saying. If you have family members who are looking at their home crumbling from mica, and other people are coming in and getting housing, surely that is causing strife in a community, and we have to be very careful and very conscious of that. But having said that, we have found the Ukrainian people very, very gentle, and a lot of them are anxious to work, and some of them are already working, and they're very, very appreciative of the benefits they have received. I did hear read an article, it was yesterday, where a a spokesperson from Kerry, a Ukrainian lady, said that she wanted to make sure that the local people were aware that they were anxious to work and they didn't want any difference made. So it underlines that they, in some cases, may be conscious of that. But, as Mary Therese and Paddy said, there is that opportunism, but I think that'll always be there in any given situation. That chink comes in.
It's an important thing you mentioned too, because the Irish Refugee Council, I believe, is the organisation that referenced, and not those words, but a refugee hierarchy that, dependent where you're from, you are rushed to accommodation, or you end up lying on chairs for weeks on end in a hotel in Dublin. It depends on what part of the world you're fleeing from.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. So I believe. That's bound to cause difficulty, and I mean, who decides what that hierarchy will be and what the urgency is? And of course, we are extremely sympathetic, and as Mary Therese said, very welcoming and very good to the Irish people, are very, very good. But I do feel that perhaps the time has come maybe to put a cap on the numbers we have coming. Because, we're only a small island with a very small population compared to other European countries who have much more facilities and room for them. I do feel, that must come.
Mary Therese Gallagher, do you think that maybe it is time to start discussing a cap, which really probably is the thrust of Councillor Blaney's motion, which I don't want to put words in his mouth, but effectively it could lead to such. I don't know what your party's policy is, but I mean, you're free to speak, obviously, from your own opinion.
I don't know what my party policy is either, but from my own point of view, Greg, I think until the system is sorted, until the services, the accommodation, and the amount of people that we as a communities and as a county can service, I think that needs to be put together. So it's not about numbers; it's about investing in the services, investing in the schools, investing in even in a social centre for the evenings, where they could throw a dart or play a game of pool or do something like that. And a lot of the communities are in that isn't even there.
I get you.
Just before we leave this subject, I think it would be very remiss of us not to acknowledge the voluntary organisations all across the county who are working day and night with the Ukrainians, and Paddy rightly said, are human beings, and welcoming them and sourcing food or sourcing prams and it's all been done voluntary. And without that voluntary organisation, and this is kind of the point I was making, and Rosa said it, the one or two bad elements of this, that's what people focus on, but the goodness and the charity that is out, and the goodness of the Ukrainian people too shouldn't be lost. But we, as I said, the rumor or the one or two bad elements.
I think it's beyond. I think it's beyond that as well. And as I say, the reason I'm trying to have this conversation and in a sensitive way as possible, in the vacuum of this conversation either happening on a local or national level, you are going to start seeing people putting flags up on their Facebook profiles, how's the Irish first, and so on and so forth. There is something happening, a movement is happening in this country, and it's all different types of people. It's starting to resonate with them. And if we ignore it or don't address it, I don't know, Paddy, do you want a final word on that? Do you understand my motivation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely sure. I mean, the government, there was an article on the front page of the Sunday Independent, it must be the good part of about 3 or 4 months ago. Apparently, all the government departments have war gamed this to assess the level of division within society. I mean, we all had the Ukrainian flags out in March and April, but you see, as things went along, then all of this, they're competing. These people now are competing for accommodation and services with let's call them the indigenous population. So because does anybody on this conversation think that the war is going to finish soon? No, the war is actually going to escalate, and it could get really dirty. So there's two things in this. You're right, this is probably going to go sour on us, and there's going to be a lot of division over this. But at the same time, there's something in my heart says that if the war goes wrong, and there's nuclear weapons shot off. We think that they never will be, but the way things are going there, you didn't know what would happen, and there was 100,000 people killed, and they were there. See, if Donegal makes a decision to take no more Ukrainians, and every other county makes a decision, that means the country can't take any more. And that means that there's going to be all of those people left on the edge of peril then. And what are we going to think then in the event of, maybe unlikely, maybe likely, I don't know, of a nuclear war out there, and there's 100,000 people killed?
Well, President Joe Biden himself overnight suggested that is a real possibility. And a lot of people are centering, their focus on the 15% of Ukraine that is at war. But it's very possible that Putin, against a wall, might say, you've got 24 hours to leave Kyiv and flatten it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He is losing on the battlefield. So he either loses and concedes defeat and withdraws, or he escalates his activities where he can win, which is from the sky.
He does, because he has manipulated the geographical and the constitutional position of those three regions. They're now Russia, as far as he's concerned. So if NATO keeps supporting Ukraine, they're now attacking Russia. It's not a war in Ukraine anymore. And he said he'll utilize nuclear weapons if Russia's attacked. So it's tricky. It's not easy, this, Greg. There's no point saying that it's easy. We have all these competing demands. But it's just a problem, and I agree with my two colleagues. I think it'll get sourer and nastier before it gets better.
Yeah, and as you say, the government has a report on its desk which was indicating that would be the case. It's been referenced before. Okay, listen, thank you very much. That's the voice of Paddy Rooney there. You're listening also to Rosa Glacken and Councillor Mary-Therese Gallagher. More after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
If you have magic moments or great memories sitting on your phone or in the cloud, have them printed at McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. Get larger 7x5 prints for the same price as 6x4s. 35mm and film from disposable cameras, also printed and digitalised. Use the in-store kiosks, download the McGee's Photo Prints app, or visit mcgees.ie for photos printed instantly, within an hour, or in by 10 and ready by 5. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist, Letterkenny.
To get that job done, call Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny. Generators, portaloos and lighting towers. Also diggers, dumpers, rollers and much, much more. With short-term, long-term and weekend special rates available. Call Gortley Sales and Hire on 91 26 276.
We wish you a...
It may be too early for Christmas carols, but it's never too early to start the Christmas shopping. Save hundreds, possibly thousands of euros shopping online with Space Hub Derry. We provide a full virtual address mailbox service for all your Christmas parcels and post. Save hundreds, possibly thousands on customs charges this Christmas with Space Hub Derry. Call 04871 878077 for more details.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
Gorta Harp will host this Saturday's Donegal Harvest Stages Rally. An impressive entry is building towards one of the best rallies of the year, with stages in the Creasta, Folcara, Gorta Harp and Dunlewy areas. You can follow the rally on Highland this Saturday with live updates in association with Rorty's Garage and Top Oil Service Station Dunlewy, serving the community for the last 33 years.
Letterkenny CDP 21st birthday celebrations begin with an open day and a trip down memory lane this Monday in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. On Thursday 13th, it's an intercultural fashion show in the Radisson Blu Hotel, followed by music and dancing to Martin Orr. And on Saturday 15th, it's a family fun day in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. Everyone welcome. For a full programme of free events, see Letterkenny CDP on Facebook.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Thank you for all of you messaging in. We will get, let's get to some of them at the moment. They're a bit scattered here, but anyway. The people in direct provision, forgotten about. It just shows how openly racist Ireland is. The colour of your skin determines how you are treated. Greg, what's the difference in a refugee fleeing their own country because their homes and lifestyles are destroyed due to no fault of their own, and an Irish person having to move out of their home because it's destroyed by Micah, their lives destroyed also? I think it's worth pointing out, and I'll put this to Paddy Diver, the accommodation that's being provided for people fleeing Ukraine is not the accommodation that people who are affected by defective concrete blocks are looking for. It's not like if a hotel was made available, and this is the point I put to Paddy Diver, if a hotel was made available in Inishowen, that lots of people affected by Micah would go into it. It's a different type of accommodation. Greg, relying on the Red Cross was a ridiculous government decision. The RC passed it on to the councils, leaving the mess locally. The people want a cap, yet the government and the opposition don't want a cap. So much for doing the will of the people who voted them. But we can't dip in and out of sort of... I'm not sure what the terminology is. I mean, people elect governments, Paddy, I'll put it to you. People elect governments, and in doing so, they give them some reign to make decisions on their behalf. We can't have a referendum on every decision a government makes.
No, and I suppose the government is trying to do the right. I mean, government isn't easy, Greg, and I suppose the governments are trying to do the right thing. You see, we have all these competing demands, and we're never going to get to a place of perfection where the tide is going to lift all boats. And we have a classic example here now of the government. They've accepted, I don't know, was it 50,000 people from Ukraine? And their needs have to be met, and then there are other Irish citizens and their needs are not being met. I mean, this kind of stuff comes up all of the time, and it's really difficult, and it's almost impossible for all boats to be lifted here.
Okay, Rosa, as it relates to the crisis that people are finding themselves in now, and you made the point about budgeting. A caller says, do you think it would be a good idea that rather than giving a fuel allowance or whatever, that it was replaced with actual fuel, be it coal or oil or something? Is that would that be a practical solution to your concerns, I wonder? Or do we try and avoid going down that road?
Well, that's actually a very good suggestion, and that could work, because if you're giving people, as I had said earlier, a large amount of money, there's no guarantee they're going to spend it on the fuel that is required. So that is one possibility. I could see the logic of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Paddy referenced it a little earlier on. We've been speaking to a lot of people again this week who have been affected by the defective concrete block scandal. Many of them are in homes now that are almost uninhabitable, or indeed they are. Very frustrated with the inaction, as they would see it, of the council, the Department of Housing. All of the problems that we've been talking about today, a lot of the people have those problems, and also a house that's falling down around their ears. And it's a lot of people, Rosa, in that situation, they feel they're not being helped. They feel hopeless. We heard Sharon yesterday say she feels like she's a burden on the council and the state, and yet there seems to be no forward motion on this issue.
That's what appalls me, Greg. It's very, very slow, and I know a number of people in this situation. It's a very, very slow process. Why is it so slow? I mean, you have to get planning permission when you've gone through all the preliminaries, and you have to get planning permission to have your house demolished. You have to get permission to build a house. You have to find storage for your furniture and items. You have to get accommodation. And it's very, very slow. I don't know anybody. I know very, very few have moved on to that stage where they're starting to rebuild. As you say, many, many of them are still in their homes, falling down around them. I mean, it's just beyond belief, the stress that these people are suffering. And as you say, not only are they worried about that, then they have cost of living and bills to cope with as well. It's a huge, huge issue. And it does not seem to be progressing.
Councillor Mary-Therese Gallagher, I mean, this is a humanitarian crisis. This is the biggest scandal, the biggest issue ever facing Donegal, at least in modern memory. With that in mind, and I know maybe the west of Donegal not quite as affected as others, but do you think this is being treated with the urgency and the importance that it deserves? I know it's been discussed at council level, but this is an emergency. This is a crisis facing hundreds of people, thousands if you take in their families. But it maybe I'm missing something. It doesn't feel as urgent locally as perhaps it should feel.
There's the way I've spoken about this, and you're right. I'm not affected by making myself, but I do speak with people who are affected by it. And you're right. We've all failed. Everybody who is an elected representative, everybody who is the executive of the council, we've all failed together. And we have, we've been told, well, you have to go through this process, you have to go through that process, you have to go up and meet the minister, the department's doing this, the department's doing that, the department's doing the other, and then a new scheme will come. And, and honest to God, Greg, as I say, I'm not affected by Micah. And I'm angry and I'm mad about all of the how this process has developed. I can't imagine what it's like. And
am I being naive in saying that, when we hear how desperate families are and that nothing is moving, their physical and mental health, we don't know how many people we have lost to the defective concrete block crisis. We simply don't know. Should there not be more urgency amongst elected members, emergency meetings, a bus to Dublin, to the Department of Housing, something to emphasise in a united, non-political way the dire emergency, the humanitarian crisis that some people are living in this council? It just seems absent to me. I'm not trying to be populist, but where is the urgency?
Greg, if you remember back last year when there was the new scheme agreed, it was, people welcomed it and we thought we're getting somewhere. But legislation has to go through the houses and legislation has to be done and legislation and all the rest of it. That went on for 9 months. I don't care what anyone says. Legislation, if it's done, it can be passed over. If the political will is there, if we are all wanting the same thing, it can be done and people can start a process. But the one thing that, if there's a scheme tomorrow morning, have we the services? Have we the people? Have we the task force set up?
Oh, I don't know. But listen, people need the 15 grand for alternative accommodation. People need the 5 grand for remedial works. I know exactly what you're talking about, but even the basics of this aren't working.
We're failing.
Paddy, I'd love 10 minutes from you on this. We have about a minute. What's your view?
Well, I think that my view is this. There are two groups of people involved. There are people who are directly affected and there's people not. For those of us that are lucky enough not to be living in a house that's not Mica affected, we need to engage in this really big time, because I'll tell you what, it's people with Mica houses today, but it could be us tomorrow. We've been here with thalidomide drugs in the 1960s. We've been here with Merck Sharp and Dome and Tipperary in the 1970s. We've been here with the blood transfusion service in the 90s. Bank of Ireland have were fined 100 million last week. And there are people that lost their homes, people committed suicide as a result of all that. Light touch regulation, absolutely minimum enforcement, and no accountability and no responsibility. And the Mica situation is hitting all these marks, and it's completely outrageous. My final point on this, Greg, this is actually causing huge reputational damage to this country about how we're dealing with this, because our response is collectively pathetic. Is the only thing I have to say.
Thank you all of you for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. Rosa Glacken, Paddy Rooney and Councillor Mary-Therese Gallagher. You taking your time out of the morning, it's not taken for granted, and I really appreciate it. Thank you all of you. Okay, take care.
Thanks.
All right, thanks very much indeed. Okay, we'll be back with the weather and then the news.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Weanling prices up €50 a head, week on week. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Exporters vie to fill Turkish weanling contract. Grain prices reach record highs. Planning permission for rooftop solar scrapped. What does the budget mean for farm building works? Major farmer data breach at Tirlawn. And with farmers facing record feed costs this winter, we have a 7-page special examining costs for winter finishing suckler cows and weanlings.
Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
We know every business is different, from coffee stalls to car dealerships and footwear. But behind every door, hatch and counter, they all have one thing in common: payments. At AIB Merchant Services, we provide payment solutions that work as hard as you do, building systems to fit your business needs, whether that's in-store, online or on the go. Search AIBMS.com for more. AIB Merchant Services, your partner in payments. First Merchant Processing Ireland DAC Trading as AIB Merchant Services is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Get up to 50% off everything in store. All kitchen and bathroom tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware, all cladding. Everything's reduced. It's our biggest ever sale. The Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
Massive stock clearance promotion now on at Hegarty's Home Interiors, Buncrana. See the best selection of sofas, beds and sliding robes, all at unbeatable prices with free delivery included. Our best sale items include 4'6" bed set, mattress base and headboard was €499, now €379 for the lot. Get an extra €100 off any recliner suite, electric or manual. See the best selection and the best priced sliding robes in Ireland, with lots more offers throughout the store. Hegarty's Home Interiors, Buncrana. Great furniture, always better prices.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold this winter and ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Highland Bakery wish both sides the best of luck in Sunday's county final. With great bread, scones, cakes and pastries, Highland Bakery is the Northwest's favourite local bakery. Look for the packet with the rabbit on it.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. From condensing boilers to heat pumps and underfloor heating, trust Grant to heat your home. Visit grant.eu.
Okay, the weather forecast: sunny spells and scattered showers for today. Heavy or thundery at times and becoming isolated towards evening. Feeling cool with moderate to fresh and gusty west to southwest winds and afternoon highs of 10 to 15 degrees. Seamus Gunn will be joining us answering your legal questions after the news at 10 with Donal.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's just gone 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. There is a flicker of optimism around the Northern Ireland Protocol. According to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Simon Coveney says he believes the British government is acting in good faith in reaching out to Dublin and Brussels to improve relations. The Minister met his British counterpart last night and is this morning co-chairing a British-Irish intergovernmental conference in London. Simon Coveney says there has been very much an improvement in the mood music.
So I think we've created a flicker of optimism that both sides can work towards resolving some of these outstanding protocol issues that have been outstanding for far too long and of course have caused enormous polarisation of opinion in Northern Ireland and a lot of tension as well.
The Environmental Protection Agency says the quality of drinking water from public supplies remains high. Over 99.7% of samples nationally are compliant with limits. However, the latest drinking water quality report criticises Irish Water after almost 900,000 people were put at risk because of two serious failures at plants in Kildare and Wexford last year. There are now 3 Donegal supplies on the EPA's remedial action list: Milford, Glenties Ardra and Leitrimach Ward, where a boil water notice remains in place. Just 3 counties account for more than 40% of Ukrainians housed in temporary or emergency accommodation, such as hotels. Figures released by the Department of Integration show there are over 38,000 Ukrainians with the status of beneficiaries of temporary protection being accommodated by the state. 3,971 of them in Donegal. That's the third highest figure in the state. Questions are now being asked about how sustainable that is, particularly in light of the defective blocks crisis, with potentially thousands of families soon needing temporary accommodation. Meanwhile, during a debate on today's 9 till noon show, local St Vincent de Paul spokesperson Rosa Dlacken said there is a third group of people at risk of being further marginalised.
One of the things we've come across is we have people in direct provision and they don't have the same entitlements, but they are also fleeing strife in their own countries. And some, they're not allowed to work. They have to wait, it seems to me, an inordinate length of time, and they're on very, very low income. They also have difficulty getting their children into schools. So, that's a third strand to it.
Minister Simon Harris is currently addressing a conference in Letterkenny. exploring the potential of the Northwest. The event is underway at the Atlantic Technological University's Letterkenny campus. The Higher Education Minister is making an online speech at the conference at which he is outlining the government's commitment to supporting educational collaboration on an all-island basis. With more, here's Micheal Clark.
Today's conference will examine cross-border activity taking place in the region and hear about plans for future collaboration in terms of employment and education, with partners working in collaboration to provide leadership, opportunity and the development of a talent pipeline for the Northwest and beyond. The event has been organised by the Northwest Tertiary Education Cluster, comprising of the ATU, Donegal ETB, Ulster University and the Northwest Regional College. The cluster was established with the aim to bring about real and positive change to the region by supporting enhanced economic prosperity and social benefits through education and employment. Over 150 delegates will hear remarks from Minister Simon Harris and renowned economist David McWilliams, who will share his views on the best practice for transforming the Northwest into a growing economy.
A meeting took place last evening in Derry to discuss safety measures at Inagh following a double drowning tragedy over the summer. The meeting was called by the Mayor, Councillor Sandra Duffy. It agreed that Derry City and Strabane District Council, along with statutory agencies and the local communities, will work with the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents, which is being asked to carry out an initial scoping exercise to assess what can be done. With more, here's Donna Marie Doherty.
The meeting was convened in response to the tragic passing of Reuben Simon and Joseph Sebastian, who died after getting into difficulty while swimming with friends in the loch in late August. The meeting of politicians and community representatives was organised to examine what possible additional safety measures could be made to the amenity. The meeting heard that while Council has no statutory responsibility for waterways and water safety or any ownership of the lands at Inagh, it has taken a proactive approach through engagement with a range of stakeholders and interested parties to carry out exploratory works to help identify roles and responsibilities at the loch. It was acknowledged that ownership and responsibility for Inagh is fragmented, with several different landowners owning various parts around the edge of the loch and some of the bed and soil of the loch. All partners agreed that a joint multi-agency approach was the best way forward, with the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents being asked to assess the loch and provide a report with recommendations on water safety.
Well, the forecast sunny spells and scattered showers today, heavy or thundery at times, becoming isolated toward evening, feeling cold with moderate to fresh and gusty west to southwest winds. Afternoon highs today of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Good morning. The obituary notices for this Friday morning, the 7th of October. The death has occurred of Eamon McGroarty, Dunwiley, Stranorder, reposing at his home from 12 noon today. Funeral from there on Sunday morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass in the Church of Mary Immaculate, Stranorder at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in Stranorder Cemetery. Requiem Mass will be streamed via the parish webcam. House private please to family and friends. The death has occurred at Four Hills Nursing Home in Glasgow of Charles Rogers, formerly of Rafo, Donegal. Funeral Mass at the Immaculate Conception RC Church, 2049 Maryhill Road, Glasgow, on Wednesday next, the 12th of October at 10 o'clock, with burial afterwards in Kentigern's Cemetery, arriving at 11:15. Family and friends are welcome. The death has taken place of Brendan McLaughlin Holmes, Anna Clonmany. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30, going to St Mary's Church, Clonmany, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. House private please from 9 p.m. and strictly family only please before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only please, donations if desired to St Columkill Village, Clonmany, care of any family member or Comiskey Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Anne Gormley, née O'Donnell, Lennon View, Remelton, formerly of Corky Manor, Cunningham. Her remains are reposing at her home. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 in St Mary's Church, Remelton, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time please from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only please, donations if desired to Pulmonary Rehab Letterkenny, care of any family member or Patrick Sweeney, funeral directors. The death has occurred of Brendan Crummy, 4, The Meadows, a Hilly, Buncrana, reposing at his late residence with family time please from 11 o'clock tonight. Removal from his home tomorrow morning at 9:15 to St Mary's Oratory, Buncrana, for Requiem Mass at 10 o'clock, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Brendan's funeral cortege will leave Murphy's funeral home on Wednesday morning next October 12th at 11, travelling to O'Kane's funeral home, Donegal Street, Belfast, to repose. Cremation will take place on Thursday afternoon, October 13th, in Roselawn Crematorium at 1:20. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu if desired, to the Irish Cancer Society, care of any family member or Murphy funeral directors. The death has taken place of Eddie Friel, Kildrum Carrigans, formerly of Ballyhernan Fanad, and Cashens Newton Cunningham. Eddie is reposing at his late residence at Kildrum Carrigans. Funeral from there tomorrow for Requiem Mass at 12 noon in All Saints Church, Newton Cunningham, with interment in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on newtowngalayparish.com. Family flowers only please, with donations, if desired, to the Donegal Hospice, care of Charlie McLafferty, funeral directors, or any family member. Family time please before the funeral tomorrow. And the death has occurred of Sadie Crawford, née Irwin, 611 Liscooley Villas, Castlefin. Funeral from her late home this afternoon at 12:20 for Requiem Mass at 1 o'clock in St Patrick's Church, Crossroads, Killygordon. Interment afterwards in St Mary's Churchyard, Castlefin. The house is private to family and close friends please, at the request of the deceased. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
And thank you all for staying with us. We're into the second hour of the 9 till noon show. Coming up in the not too distant future, Seamus Gunn will be joining us answering your legal questions. Hi, Greg. What does your panel think of the way our people of Micah homes are being treated and are homeless when Ukrainians are being put up for free? No electricity, no heating, no food, no travel, as they can hop onto any bus for free anywhere, all while they're getting social welfare, a medical card and benefits. I'm not against them being given a roof over their heads and benefits until they get work like all Irish citizens, but not all for free while the Irish citizens are struggling. Is a question there. Would it ever be made public what the people facilitating refugees in this county are receiving? We've heard figures that will make some of these millionaire. They drop them into an area with nothing except the clothes on their backs and expect the local community to provide for them. Surely the facilitators should make sure they have the basic requirements. I think there's something very wrong with all of this. Young people are leaving the country. I hear my son's talking about how many of his colleagues are emigrating. It's simply too costly. The Irish aren't being looked after. Just hopefully maybe they're going to places with greater wages so the gap between your income and your spend is wider. But, I mean, you wouldn't be going to Britain at the moment, would you? Or many countries, for that matter, because they're dealing with a lot of the same stuff we are. Is it Irish or European government that's paying the money out? Well, there was a fund that was redirected to fund the response to the Ukrainian refugee crisis. That being said, now the taxpayer is funding the bulk of it. I believe it is Roderick O'Gorman, isn't it? He's looking for a supplementary budget of €850 million for this year, I believe, and $2 billion of money from the Irish state, from the coffers, if you know what I mean. $2 billion, that's with a B, $2 billion has been set aside with for 2023 to deal with the Ukrainian crisis there, the refugee crisis. So that answers that question, I hope. Let me see. More coming in all the while. I just want to make sure I don't sort of hop, skip and jump between too many issues here. Fair play to Marie-Therese speaking up about the greedy landlords. Should we do like Scotland have done, a rent freeze or cap on rent? But isn't there rent caps in rent pressure zones? And they're talking about maybe introducing a It's quite interesting, the conversation that's been having at government level, because they're talking about introducing a moratorium on evictions over winter, and there are some within government that are saying, right, that's okay, but we're only really deferring a problem that we'll have to deal with in spring. So it seems that the government is expecting or anticipating, whatever they're doing about it, a large number of people being evicted from their accommodation because they can't pay their rent. Okay. Caller says that he paid for the drill tests and was found to have 4% mica, but the house is deemed for total demolition because of pyrite. Can't avail of the scheme because the mica level is too low. Where pyrite reacts similarly to mica, it's not eligible for the scheme. Don't have a leg to stand on. This is extremely rare case, and a caller is wondering if anyone else has the same problem, and what did they do? I presume the IS is being examined at the moment, and the hope is that it'll be widened to take into account other minerals. Hopefully you would be caught into that scheme then. But I don't know as much as everyone out there knows. Those affected by this, let me know what the story is. His mica's at 4%, but his house is crumbling due to pyrite. Why doesn't the county councillor, who contacted the government about the mica issue when he didn't get a reply regarding his inquiries, pick up the phone and keep the pressure on until he gets a satisfactory answer, instead of saying, I haven't heard from them? That comes in from Mary Doherty. I think that's referencing Councillor McBride. We don't know if he did or not chase up with phone calls. When are the people of Donegal going to wake up to the fact that... Right, I'll come back to that. I just want to read through that one just because there's individuals mentioned, and I just have to be sure that I just check a couple of things in that text. I don't understand how we can house so many instantaneously. However, nothing can be found for these homeowners who, by being sold defective blocks, have to live in an accident waiting to happen. What will it take? Maybe someone to be killed before the powers that be decide to get off their bums and do something. Well, I mean, waiting for someone to be killed. You know, when we talk about the impact this has on people's health and lives, we're probably thinking the context of a chimney stack collapsing on someone. But this entire crisis can lead to someone's passing in different ways, and that has to be taken into account as well as it relates to how we're housing Ukrainians and how we would hope to house those affected by mica. The same type of housing wouldn't be a solution. Elsewhere, by the way, I'm fully aware modular housing is being constructed on about within this county just here at the moment. Okay, very, very busy on the phone lines, as you can imagine. Lots of people wanting their say. Stay in touch with us. You know the numbers, don't you? To text, it's 086 60 25,000. That's WhatsApps too. Good luck if you're playing bingo today. Speaking of luck, you know that song, Pearl's a Winner. Well, Pearl Fair is from Fawn, and the bingo has been more than fair to Pearl. She won €1,400 collectively in the past 7 days playing the NCBI Radio Bingo, over 2 wins. Furthermore, Pearl is a loyal player and a great advocate for the charity, encouraging her friends to join the fun. And one of her friends bought a book for the first time and won €400 on the NCBI Radio Bingo. So if you want to be a winner like Pearl's a winner, then get your books today. And don't forget, the big thing here is that you've raised over €250,000 for the National Council for the Blind of Ireland playing the bingo. Here's the numbers for today. Good luck.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 7th of October. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S20. It's game number 40. The numbers are 48, 53, 24, 21, 85, 43, 40, 6, 44, and finally 2. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union.
At On Post, we believe in giving you more power over how you bank. That's why AIB and Bank of Ireland customers can now lodge and withdraw money at any of our 900 post offices across Ireland 6 days a week. That's right, your bank is in your post office for personal and business banking alike, meaning you can bank wherever you live or work. Visit your local post office or onpost.com/everydaybanking. On Post, your money for your world. Allied Irish Banks plc and Bank of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Hi, I'm Oliver Callan, and I know about impersonations. When they're bang on, it's hard to tell the difference from the real thing, believe me. Right now, as people and businesses are moving bank accounts, fraudsters are taking advantage by impersonating companies and organisations you trust. So, you need to be fraud smart. Never update new banking details without contacting the sender directly, and never click on links in emails or texts. Remember, double check and contact direct. Visit fraudsmart.ie.
The Donegal Silage Competition with Homeland and Nutrius Animal Feeds is back for 2022 and entries are now open. Entry is free and includes 5 categories: dairy, beef, sheep, round bale and new entrant. First prize a €300 Homeland voucher and second prize a €200 Homeland voucher in each category. For full entry details visit homeland.ie.
Make big savings in the final clearance sale at Watson Menswear Letterkenny. Like top label polo shirts, jackets and fleeces, just $24.95, or get 2 for €40. Casual shirts and knitwear for $29.95, or 2 for €50. A selection of super dry, now half price. There's also 25% off selected suits and many more great savings in every department. In the final clearance sale at Watson Menswear, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Letterkenny Gaels and Carndonagh collide this Saturday afternoon in the Donegal Junior Championship Final. The winners will also make the big step up to intermediate level for next season. Join the Highland team for live match commentary at the O'Donnell Park from the 2:30pm throw-in in association with SuperValue Carndonagh. SuperValue, the #1 GAA supporter.
Whether it's golfing, gardening, or going for a new personal best, at Nurofen we know sometimes body pain can stop you in your tracks. Time for the power of new Nurofen Long Lasting for body pain relief that lasts up to 12 hours day or night. So you keep doing what you're doing and we'll do the long lasting body pain relief. Up to 12 hours pain relief refers to a 2x300mg capsule dose. Nurofen Long Lasting 300mg prolonged release hard capsules contain ibuprofen for backache and muscular pain and period pain. Always read the label.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Company, Letterkenny and Ramelton, joins us for our legal questions item. Good morning to you, Seamus. How are you keeping?
Good, Greg. Thank you. Nice to be here. Yeah,
it's good to have you with us again. People, send in your questions if you have them for Seamus to 08660 25,000. Before we do, just a follow-up, I suppose, on a story we've talked about on this programme. And this is it's a case that caught the public's imagination, both in Britain and here. And it is Wagatha Christie, the trial. Rebecca Vardy now, she's expected to pay an estimated £1.5 million towards Colleen Rooney's legal costs. This after losing a defamation case earlier this year. Court documents show Ms. Vardy has been ordered to pay 90% of Mrs. Rooney's legal fees. An initial payment of £800 must be made by the 15th of November, the court documents said. That is a hefty, hefty bill. I wonder, does she regret it yet?
Well, yeah, it is. It's a heavy tariff. It's 800,000 by the 15th of November. An interesting question, though, maybe, is this: will she recoup that from TV rights that will follow? Documentaries, I think ITV already, it's been mentioned, Channel 4 and different media outlets, which I think are going to certainly maybe make even a mini series of this. And therefore, there could yet be a big payday for both the ladies concerned. But as it stands, it certainly is a case that she will be wondering as to how she got into this situation in the first place. The tweet that she actually went public, or that whenever Miss Rooney went public with the tweet, there was something near up to 400,000 engagements with that, and went right around viral around the world. And that was basically when she was outing Vardy as such, as being the snitch for releasing certainly well, private information about her, which only she had access to it. Now, how it was so interesting for people to know whether Miss Rooney was going to Mexico for a gender selection procedure or return to television or flooding in her home is a bit beyond me, and how that could now cost upwards of, like the 1.5 million is per side, Greg. So we're talking maybe in the region of £3 million. But it certainly caught the imagination of people right across the world. I have to say that this was being watched and people engaging with it. The judge has certainly measured the costs at a fairly high level, because it's on the basis of what's called an indemnity level. So Miss Rooney is entitled to recover nearly 90% of her costs, but she would also have had to pay a significant sum even before now herself, and they estimate that maybe being upwards of 350 to 400,000, that may not be recoverable because that was pre-trial. So an awful lot of money at stake, big reputations at stake. Is there an appeal in it? That would be really, a few weeks ago when the judgment was initially given, there was this point about the costs. Everybody was wondering, will there be an appeal by Miss Vardy afterwards? Well, she probably has been thinking about that. And then when she looks at the tariff at the end of this particular hearing, and this is only 7 days now in the High Court in London. You keep that in mind. 7 days in the High Court in London, and we're up to somewhere a figure in or around 3 million. And if she's considering an appeal, well, the judge's summing up of it was quite stinging. You know, she was saying while Miss Rooney was honest and reliable, while the other lady she was saying was manifestly inconsistent, evasive, and implausible. Now, that's a very heavy hurdle to get over if she's considering an appeal. And then you'll also have to remember, it was fascinating when, as they were running this trial, by what they described very, very nearly comically as the unfortunate incidents that happened during it. The phone that ended up in the bottom of the sea at one stage was more like something out of the Pirates of the Caribbean. There was forgotten passwords as well. So there's a lot of issues. Broken laptops, I think was mentioned too, that the information could not be retrieved.
Yeah.
So the credibility went west considerably for Miss Vardy, and those would be big trouble to get over if she was considering an appeal. How she would remedy those unless she gets a trawler out and gets down on the beach looking for this phone. I'd say she's in serious difficulty.
Just in relation with a case like this, and costs are going to be high given the setting and the nature of the case. Does someone bringing it have to give any guarantees that they can cover these types of costs? You know what I mean? Obviously there's going to be an initial outlay for their own defence team, but she's also having to compensate journalists who were supposed to be witnesses and ended up not being witnesses. Do you have to give any guarantee of your ability to meet a judge's findings?
It's a very interesting point. Because there is a procedure though, where and I think what you're hinting at, if somebody was taking, for example, a frivolous action, a person maybe of straw in respect of assets against another person of means, and let's say it could be considered or could be argued to be considered frivolous. Well, in that situation, a party could make an application to the court for security for costs to be put in, so that a sum of money would have to be put up front by the person making the claim, that they had the wherewithal of the means to meet an order if an order for costs was made against them in the event that they were unsuccessful. It wouldn't arise in this situation, Greg, because of this. You're dealing with Jamie Vardy and Rooney are two of Wayne Rooney, two of the biggest names in football, and these are their two wives in this situation.
That's providing they're prepared to bankroll the outcome of such.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. But it would be a situation where there would be a certain presumption or assumed that there wouldn't be an issue on that. However, it is Miss Vardy who has lost the case. It basically, the tweet of Miss Rooney was found to be true in the main. And therefore the costs follow the event. It's her personally, and I have we have no way of assessing what her means are. As I said, it's assumed that she does have the wherewithal, but if she does not, well, then that has to be pursued, and you could have a situation where if they were not successful in recovering that, and let's say she declared herself bankrupt, just for example, if she so did, well, then Miss Rooney would be in a sticky situation too, because she then her legal team would be looking for payment, and principally the first party that would be looking to as the client would be responsible for the costs, and then they would be recovering those from Miss Barty. So I think it may be unlikely, because I see another payday down the road on this whenever the big TV stations get stuck in and we start watching it on some of the big media outlets.
Yeah, that's if they do it licensed, because you could probably make a docu-series on that without actually accessing without actually, dramatise it. One other celeb area, if you don't mind, before we get to listeners' questions. I note that the likes of Prince Harry, if that's still his title, Elton John and his partner, and a few other celebrities have come together to take action against the Daily Mail, claiming that the cars were being bugged, private eyes were being investigated, phones were being tapped. It's going to be a big one. They're taking this big action against this huge media organisation, which does it does operate through clickbait, celeb stories, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if this is successful, celeb gossip might well be a thing of the past if it's not already. But what do you think of a group of celebs coming together like this to take on a media giant?
It's what we would call nearly a class action by particular people of notoriety, let's say. They are taking on the giant of the paparazzi, we'll call it, and who will have very deep pockets, who will be resisting this action, and for very obvious reasons, just what we were after speaking about for the last few minutes, that type of trial, the type of sales that follow on from that. So the amount of money that's vested in this type of journalism, for what rather, regardless of what we think of it, it's what sells newspapers. So they will want to defend it and protect their patch, because without it, some of these titles that you've mentioned there may not even exist, and may not have a commercial reason for being in existence. So the interesting point is, I think that the celebrities coming together are trying to add weight, as in it's all a common cause here, and this affects us all, and it will also help for sure in the funding of it, because they will all probably have as a representative action, and they'll all be making therefore a contribution towards the costs of it, and that will, as it were, maybe limit the exposure of the actual individual in not having to fund it all. So that does make some sense. But the Daily Mail, Greg, are not going to roll over.
No. Are they likely to have to fund the defence of this themselves, or would they have some sort of an insurance indemnity against these types of actions? I just think in the space that they operate, and with the phone tapping scandal and all of that, it's hard to imagine an insurance company, for whatever premium, would offer them some sort of protection for these type of actions. I wonder. So that's just my own curiosity. I'm not sure if listeners are interested, but anyway.
We're not professing to be authorities on insurance indemnities, but one of the covers that I think that you would have in place in the media world, nearly essential, is that for defamation, and that's fairly obvious. The premium that is placed on it and the level of risk that it's assessed at would be one for the underwriters, and what type. We're quite sure it would attract a very, very hefty loading on the policy itself. But I think it'd be foolhardy to think that they would not have indemnity for this type of action.
All right.
It'll be part and parcel of it.
Okay. You never know what we might end up talking about, but we're going to be talking about our listeners' questions and queries and what have you after we take this break. Seamus is going to stay with us. Stay right where you are too.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Weanling prices up €50 a head, week on week. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Exporters vie to fill Turkish weanling contract. Grain prices reach record highs. Planning permission for rooftop solar scrapped. What does the budget mean for farm building works? Major farmer data breach at Tirlawn. And with farmers facing record feed costs this winter, we have a 7-page special examining costs for winter finishing suckler cows and weanlings.
Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Listen up, pet lovers. Feed your pets for less at Pet Value Buncrana. Get Burns dog food 20% off. James Well-Beloved dog food 15kg was €73.80, now only €60. Whiskas 40 pouch cat food only €16. Whiskas 7kg complete cat food only €20. Get more value at Pet Value. St Mary's Road, Buncrana. Open 7 days a week. Find us on Facebook.
Hi, Marty Friel here. Hope you can join me this and every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. with Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7 Letterkenny. Book a kids' party at Laser Quest Arena 7. Combine it with bowling and great food for a day to remember. For packages and bookings, visit arena7.ie.
Win €20,000 in the big Finn Harps Stadium draw. Yes, €20,000 in cash is the first prize, with 5 other great prizes also up for grabs. Tickets are only €20 or get 3 for €50 at finnharps.ie or from any club member.
If you need advice on what's best for coughs or colds, or what's best for sore throats or flu, just ask at your local Brennan's Pharmacy. If you need advice on the best vitamins and tonics to put a pep in your step, just ask at your local Brennan's Pharmacy. Whether it's about backaches, headaches or tummy aches, your Brennan's Pharmacy team can help. If you need advice from someone you trust, we're here for you at your local Brennan's Pharmacy, Buncrana, Clonmany and Creeslough.
The Western Health and Social Care Trust in Northern Ireland is recruiting for Band 5 and 6 neonatal staff nurses at the Southwest Acute Hospital Enniskillen. Vacancies are now available for experienced neonatal nurses and for nurses wanting to develop a career in this specialist area. We're planning the first Northern Ireland FICARE unit and welcome those with experience or an interest in the model. If you're not currently registered with the Nursing and Midwifery Council, the Trust will support you through this process. To apply or find out more, visit jobs.hscni.net. Be proud, be part of it.
Okay, still in the company of Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Co, Letterkenny and Ramelton. Let's get to some of your questions now. Seamus, what kind of money does it cost to get my wife's name put on land? Is that an easy procedure? You're still muted, Seamus. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Seamus, you're still muted. Thank you.
Got that. Yeah.
Presenter's worst nightmare.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, there's something else going on there, just as can happen. Well, this was a topic that we had a very good debate on Tuesday last. There was a big event locally in Chagasgran, and it was very well attended. And it was a query that came up in relation to transferring of land, and it comes under that same type of umbrella. It can be a very useful point, and one that is well worth considering for families in a situation where maybe the entire properties are all held in one other name, or if it's a farming situation where the farm is registered in maybe the husband's name or the wife's name. And the big advantage that I would say in it is this, that if you proceed with a transfer from spouse to spouse and then put the property in joint names, if one of them passes away, the survivor will succeed. There's also the added advantage of this, that there will not be stamp duty or gift tax. It will not attract either of those because it's between spouses. So as far as the costs then are concerned, you get valuations, and whoever would be dealing with the matter for you would be able to give you an idea of what type of legal fees, professional fees would be involved, and you could source that out for yourself. So, but the big advantage is that the heavy taxes that these matters can attract when dealing in families and passing them on down the line, such as a gift tax, or in the event of a will, inheritance tax and stamp duties, do not arise between husband and wife, between spouses or partners as such under civil partnership. So that's a matter that I think that's at a certain stage in life, definitely worth considering. It avoids the necessity for probate later on as well if one passes away.
That succession issue is a difficult one for a myriad of reasons, which we touched on mostly on on Tuesday ahead of that Teagasc run event. Understandably, it is, because it challenges an awful lot of things: a parent's relationship with siblings, maybe some of the children are daughters and they're married into a different family, or even not wanting to face your own mortality, or whatever it might be. It's a tough one, Seamus, and you can try and offer advice and show people a pathway, but it's an emotion. It's the emotional element of it's the difficult part. Perhaps the legal element of it not quite as difficult as that sort of conversation. When to have it? Who starts it? Is it a son or daughter? Is it the mom or dad? It's complicated.
It's getting that balance, and it's not and never is black and white, and no families are the same, and the children are not the same, and circumstances dictate really their lives and where they go. And if you're talking about plotting inheritances in situations where there is land and farming and it's been handed down for generations, it's obvious that the people might want to keep it within the family. But in the current day, maybe the children have developed other interests other than that. And that is where the hesitancy comes in naturally. Because at the back of it all, maybe this farm, we're just talking in that genre for a second, has been handed down from generations, and they want to secure it within their own family. But nothing lasts forever. But in this country, there's very, very little land comes for sale because it is retained within the families that own it, if they can at all. But as I said, nothing lasts forever. And at some stage, if there is no succession, those that do inherit it will probably and likely have to end up selling it in order to get their interest out of it, because it doesn't suit their lifestyle or their lives or their occupations. And that's where the dilemma arises. And that's always where the delay creeps in, because people keep putting it off. Now, to deal with that, firstly, they should have some arrangements in place by way of putting their own last will and testament in place. That's not going to shorten their day, but at least it is there if something happens to them whenever they're trying to make this decision, which, as I say, can go on, and they want to see how the family develops, what interests they develop, etc. And then they have to be like Solomon then saying, well, the farm is worth, maybe mega bucks, but there's no money there. And they want the other members of the family to get something as well. But to have that difficulty in that they don't have the personal estate, i.e. the financial side of it, maybe to try to give them an equal share of the holding. And there isn't any point, unless they're going to be around locally, to maybe giving them a site with the hope that they come home. But that can work. It may work. It doesn't always. It mightn't be practical. So then if they charge it with a payment to the other siblings, then that saddles that person who inherits with a big debt. So it's very, very, very difficult indeed.
You have to get out in front of it.
You have to try to get the balance right.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and I don't mean this facetiously, but sometimes there's an advantage coming from a background with no assets in the family, so to speak. It makes it simple. Seamus,
and there are no hitches on a hearse. Greg, remember that?
Yeah, that is quite true. Seamus, for a couple who are separated and it's amicable, can a deed of separation be drawn up between them without the need to involve solicitors that would need to be included? Can this deed then be made legal? What's involved in that? Now, of course, you're a solicitor and you would be keen to point out the important role of solicitors, but for the purpose of that question?
Yeah, look at I've no issue with people taking it upon themselves to carry out their own legal work. It's when it goes wrong I have the issue. And then it gets very costly because it unravels, and you still need a lawyer, maybe two lawyers, and people have to be represented. And also when they do use a lawyer in relation to it, well, they have somebody to come back to tease out if there is a problem with it going forward. So it's well worth that investment. However, if they so wish to go ahead and have a separation between them, and they reduce it to writing, and it's signed off on and properly witnessed, yes, they can try to enforce it, and it may very well work. But what I'm saying is also, I think, of importance in that if it goes wrong, it's going to cost money. It's the same thing as doing a homemade will. It can easily be done, properly witnessed, and it can certainly be admitted to probate. But if there's a hitch or there's a glitch in it, and then you get lawyers involved and you end up having to off to court with it, it can cost a substantial sum and can certainly eat into the value of the estate. So for doing it correctly, for having the peace of mind, I think it's a no-brainer. But look, it's a free country. If people want to do homemade wills, homemade separation agreements, they're quite entitled to do so. They do it at their own risk.
All right. What's the situation with shops not accepting cash? Is it legal for them to say no to cash, card only? And this is one that's coming. It's got there's a big. What's happening here is there's a group of people who want cash retained and they see its importance for a load of different reasons. But you've got this natural sort of transition. People are switching from cash. They're paying for things with their watch, their phone, tapping their card. This is a tide that some people are trying to push back, but lots of people are the tide and they just want to go cashless because it's handy for them. It's almost generational, I think. But in any case, at the moment, some shops are refusing to accept cash. It is legal tender. Is it legal for them not to accept it?
Well, I have, look, I've been over across the water a couple of times, and I'm quite shocked and been refused by payment by means of cash. It seems very common across the water. And it is creeping in here. I would not be in favour of it. I believe that as long as pound euros are considered legal tender, and sterling is considered legal tender, and you have that available to pay for your goods, I think it should be accepted. I think it would be worth maybe checking the position with the Office of Consumer Affairs to see what their view is on this going forward. You're asking me about the legality. A shopkeeper has it within their remit to run their business as they so see fit. And if they put up the terms and conditions of doing business with you or me, and they are well known, and there may be a sign up inside, and that's the only way that I am going to invite you in here to do business with me. If I'm going to sell you something that's a legal contract, my means of enforcing the contract are by card or whatever, and we don't accept, we're not accepting notes, or we're not accepting hard cash. So that's my prerogative. I'm not saying it's not good for business, but if I'm laying that down and it's open and it's up front and they're my terms of business, and you accept them, or you come in and you purchase something, well, that's the terms of which I'm prepared to have a contract with you, and so you have to abide by them or just walk. I don't agree with that, but we're talking about a contract situation, and the person who's running the shop saying, well, those are the terms and conditions of sales within this premises.
All right, so I presume
I don't think it's good for consumers, and I certainly don't think it's good for business. There used to be an old saying, the customer is always right, and in this situation, if the customer...
But what if they say it costs a fortune?
Should be acceptable.
But what if they say now it costs a fortune to lodge cash? We can offer a much better valued service by the transactions being digital. If you want us to start charging cash, we'd have to bump up our prices.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a conversation.
It's a conversation, but without getting into the nitty gritty of actually putting that to the client or to the consumer, they can have that tariff built into the cost of the product they're selling in the first instance. So that they don't have to, that should not be a feature at all of any discussion. That's just plain commerce.
Okay.
As I say, and the day that it'll be a sorry day. It may change again. Inflation is going up. It is all changing. For some time back, we were being charged. Interest was being charged on interest being charged against you on deposits in the bank. Now that has moved on again. So because of inflation, nothing stands still. Doing away with legal tender, just see it as being a slippery slope, and it would be a very, very, very sad day for lots of people.
Yeah, and some big associations should take note. They refuse or may refuse cash at the turnstiles. Okay, a quick one here. Who should hold the deeds of a property with no mortgage, by the way? The property owner, their solicitors, or the bank?
Yeah, well, usually now, and you're back to charges. As soon as you pay off your mortgage, the bank or financial institution are likely to write to you to let you know, and you take up an e-discharge of the mortgage and have that removed from the title. Your title is then free. Your title documents are then free. The financial institutions are not overly keen in having to warehouse them and keep them, again, down to cost. So they let the people know that the mortgage is redeemed and they can return the documents to them. So the individual then can either retain them at home or decide that they want to have them retained by their solicitor. Lots of solicitors provide this service free gratis, and that has been the custom anyway up to now in the practice. So if a person does not want to retain them at home or is not satisfied with the security aspect, I'm sure their own solicitor, if they have that facility, could provide it for them. It's worth, they should consider it and talk to them about it. If you're asking me where they're best kept, I would probably again vouch for the latter, because at least then someone else has them indexed in, and they know where they are and their family know where they are, and they should be in safekeeping. The other thing though, I wouldn't get too uptight about the actual title deed itself, because nowadays with the move to registering all titles, all in the future, at some point in the future, it should be all land registry title. That means it's on a folio, so that if the folio goes missing, you can apply to the PRA, the Property Registration Authority, and have it replaced. And it's no big drama, that.
Yeah. What's the law around noise pollution? My child has a car which they drift on our land. Neighbours, though, are constantly complaining about the noise of this activity. If there are hours are there hours where noise is allowed, or is there a cut-off time? Surely the fact that we are operating this vehicle on our own land and there's no danger to anyone, then it is our business. It's an interesting...
Well, it's a constitutional right that, if you're on your own property and you are not interfering with others, you should be able to enjoy your property as you so fit. No doubt about that. The interesting little point there is if it's not interfering with anyone, well, this noise obviously is disturbing the comforts of maybe neighbours or other persons in the locality. But how do we assess that? How do we monitor it? How do we measure it? At what point would it become a nuisance to you and not to me? That's the real difficulty in this. But you're asking me, is there not a law on it? I'm not aware of it. There could be certain circumstances where there are noise restrictions and noise pollution, and you'd have to measure decibels, etc. Probably bring in an engineer, but I'm not aware of any specific law on it.
All right, my son was born in the US and lives there. He does not have a PPSN. How can I add him to my property tax record?
Well, if he's born there and he's a son or a daughter of an Irish citizen, they would have to apply, if they want to have him on the LPT, they'll have to apply to get him a PPS number in this jurisdiction. And there's certain procedures involved in that. They could either contact their solicitor, would may be able to help them on it, but the Department of Social Protection would be the main port of call for it. Complete the forms, they have to prove ID, etc., and make a submission. You don't have to be employed here, I have to say, or be receiving any state supports to have a PPS number. You can make an application and obtain one, and the Department of Social Welfare and Family Affairs will be your port of call.
All right, Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Company. They have offices in Letterkenny and Ramelton, but it is 2023, so we've dragged Seamus into the new century with a website. Seamus, remind people how they can access the services.
Sure, yeah, and all legal tender is accepted as well. DonegalSolicitors.ie and gun.ie, Greg.
Yeah, if I mention the word cash, I can almost see a twinkle in your eye, Seamus.
It'll always be there.
Okay. Listen, thank you very much indeed. Seamus Gunn there. As always, we really appreciate his time.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans. Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Are you completing your UCAS application? CAFRE offers degree courses in food, agriculture, equine and horticulture. Come along to CAFRE's October Open Days. Talk to students, meet staff and explore the practical facilities at Northern Ireland's specialist agri-food and land-based college. Book now to attend an open day at Greenmount Campus, Enniskillen Campus and Loughry Campus. Register online at cafre.ac.uk or visit Discover CAFRE on Facebook.
Years ago, I used to dread my motor insurance renewal. Then a friend told me about O'Malley Scanlon Insurance in Ballybofey and Dunlow. They do all the hard work. They contact all the major insurance underwriters and they get the very best possible quote for me. They have saved me a small fortune over the years and they could do the same for you.
When your insurance comes up for renewal, contact O'Malley Scanlon Insurance at their Ballybofey office on 9131020 or their Dunlow office on 952206. O'Malley Scanlon is regulated by the Central Bank.
Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure has all the fitness gear you need to get back on track. Shop the new Donegal DNA leisure wear range of t-shirts, training tops and jackets from O'Neill's. There's new arrivals of men's, women's and children's wear arriving every week with free next day nationwide delivery on any spend over €85 at michaelmurphysports.ie.
Paul Claffey Tours are delighted to announce that we're heading back to sunny Spain in June 2023, staying at the luxury Barossa Hotel Complex, Cadiz, Spain from June 8th to 15th. Joining Paul for this unforgettable week will be some of Ireland's best love entertainers, Mike Denver and many friends including Brendan Shine, Dominic Kerwin, John McNichol, Jerry Guthrie, Stephen Smith, Jim Devine, Cliona Hagan, The Conquerors, Aisling Rafferty, Ger Long and many more. The price is only €1,079 half board plus tax and insurance. Call 01 685 2244 or see paulclaffeytours.com and don't miss the holiday of a lifetime.
It's where you live. It's where you relax. It's where you make memories. Treat your home to a visit to Cooney's Home Interiors. We have everything in store to help recreate your home. Choose from our extensive range of suites, tables, beds, mattresses and home furnishings for every room. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny. Style and perfection at incredible value. We wish you a...
It may be too early for Christmas carols, but it's never too early to start the Christmas shopping. Save hundreds, possibly thousands of euros shopping online with Space Hub Derry. We provide a full virtual address mailbox service for all your Christmas parcels and post. Save hundreds, possibly thousands on customs charges this Christmas with Space Hub Derry. Call 04871 878077 for more details.
You might think you know Ireland's ancient East, but maybe it's time for a closer look. Uncover stories bold and brave where vibrant city nights follow action-packed days. Set course for countless adventures at Carlingford Adventure Centre or roam wild in wonder in the Glen of Aherlow and become captivated by the culture and craft of Kilkenny's cobbled streets. Ireland's ancient East, yours to explore. Keep discovering at discoverireland.ie.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Kia Sportage, Donegal's best-selling car in both new and used. Call into us in Letterkenny or Malin to find out why the Sportage is a Donegal favourite. Take a test drive today and you won't be disappointed.
Whether you're travelling for business or leisure, fly local and choose City of Derry Airport. For a convenient, friendly and reliable service, choose City of Derry Airport. Direct flights to London Stansted, Liverpool, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Manchester and Majorca. Book now at cityofderryairport.com. Voted the #1 airport in Northern Ireland.
The Northwest Cross-Border Jobs Fair will be held on Tuesday the 11th of October from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. in the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, Buncrana. This event provides an opportunity to meet employers, check out their current vacancies and learn more about what training or education opportunities are on offer. So whether you're a job seeker, graduate or employed and wish to change jobs, start a new career or relocate, then please register your interest on eventbrite.ie and we look forward to seeing you there. This event is supported by Cross-Border Partnership for Employment Services, the Department of Social Protection and Department for Communities.
Now, this coming Sunday, Highland Radio will broadcast a service of remembrance and support for parents and families who have lost children due to stillbirth, miscarriage, neonatal death and children who were older. Taking part in the service will be the chaplains and staff of Letterkenny University Hospital with soloist Andrea Long. This service will be broadcast directly after the 10 a.m. news here on Highland Radio. And I know so many of us have been affected by this over the years, and it's something many people have an understanding of. So that's a special service of remembrance and support for parents and families who've lost children for a number of reasons there, as I've mentioned. That service will be broadcast for you on this radio station after the 10 o'clock news on Sunday. So if that's something that you want to tune in for, make sure that you do. We might even try and get that podcast outside of the live broadcast for those who want to listen to it when they're ready or when it suits them. Right, okay. A caller says, as it relates to the defective block situation, the only way to get this sorted now is to force an election. We're completely forgotten about in Donegal and they could not care less. I will watch with interest to see what happens if there is a change of administration and how quickly things move on, because an awful lot of promises has been made, and with the best will in the world, it remains to be seen if all of those promises can be fulfilled. We'll be keeping a very close eye on that on this programme, you can be sure. Greg, they've tried campaigns and marches, they've achieved nothing. It's time to strike where it hurts. It's time to stop paying the banks. What would stop paying the banks achieve, though? They just take your property off you. Then you're homeless, your credit rating's through the floor. A lot of progress has been made, though, in fairness. A lot of progress has been made. But we're just not there yet. That's the issue. And we'll keep at it.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
All right, it is the 9 till noon show, heading into the last hour of the week, but let's get a news update first and say good morning at 11 o'clock once again now to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Real and honest engagement is taking place between the EU and UK over the Northern Ireland Protocol. That's the view of the Foreign Affairs Minister. Simon Coveney met with the British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly last night. He is chairing a British-Irish intergovernmental conference today in London. Simon Coveney says there is a flicker of optimism that issues surrounding the protocol can be resolved. Just 3 counties account for more than 40% of Ukrainians housed in temporary or emergency accommodation, such as hotels in this country. Figures released by the government show just over 38,000 Ukrainians across the state. Just under 4,000 of them officially registered in Donegal. That's the highest number in the state. That's led to the mayor of the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District moving a motion to be debated next week, calling for a moratorium on acceptance of refugees until the accommodation standards in which they're being kept are fully assessed. Meanwhile, during a debate on today's 9 till noon show, the local St Vincent de Paul spokesperson said there is a third group of people at risk of being further marginalised, and that is people in direct provision. The Higher Education Minister Simon Harris has told a conference in Letterkenny this morning that the government is fully committed to supporting education collaboration on an all-Ireland basis. A new organisation has been launched today. It involves the ATU in Donegal and across the Northwest, along with Ulster University and the Northwest Regional College in Derry. A meeting's been held to discuss safety measures at Inaloch in Derry following a double drowning tragedy over the summer. The meeting, called by the Mayor, Councillor Sandra Duffy, agreed that Derry City and Strabane District Council will take the lead along with statutory agencies and the local community in a bid to bring better safety procedures into place in the area. They liaise with the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents. And the Environmental Protection Agency says while overall the quality of drinking water from public supplies in Ireland remains high with over 99.7% compliance with bacterial and chemical limits, there were 2 major incidents last year, one in Kildare, the other in County Wexford. Hundreds of thousands of people were put at risk because of what were termed serious failures. A number of people in Wexford had to be hospitalised. And we're back with headlines again at 12 noon.
Okay, Donald, thank you very much indeed. Now, Micheal and Fionnuala will be joining us with That's Entertainment. But let's first take this quick break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Imagine a better way to manage your energy with a smart plan from Bord Gosh Energy. Our smart plans, like Free Time Saturday or Free Time Sunday, can help you lower your bills and reduce your energy usage. Find a smart plan that works for you and your home at boardgoshenergy.ie/smart. Free energy units are available from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday or Sunday each week with this tariff. Customers can choose Saturday or Sunday. Smart meter required. Terms and conditions apply. See boardgoshenergy.ie.
Inflation busting sale now on at Florid Letterkenny. There's 12mm AC5 European laminate starting from €16.95 a square yard. 8mm AC4 European laminate starting from €11.99 a square yard. And engineered plant oak flooring from only €47.99 a square yard. But hurry, only while stocks last at Florid, Cullion Road, Letterkenny.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Ready for flu season? It could be really busy, so it's best to be prepared. Help protect yourself and the people around you by booking your winter flu vaccination appointment as soon as possible. Book in with our trusted, experienced team at 88 Boots pharmacies nationwide. Book in store or online at boots.ie/flu and give yourself the best protection against flu. Boots, with you for life. Eligibility criteria apply. Charges may apply, subject to availability.
Thinking of changing your car for a new car? Get ahead of the queue. It's time to order your new 2023 Kia today. With an award-winning range of vehicles, your next car will be a Kia, we are sure of it. Visit Letterkenny or Malin or imotors.ie.
Okay, it's that time of the week again, and it's great to welcome Fionnuala back to the team. Fionnuala, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us again.
Great to be back.
The short wee trip from your office, but anyway. And of course, that old reliable. He's like that pair of underpants that you just don't want to throw out.
Oh, that's the best.
Frank Sinatra
I'm gonna get the podcast and I'm gonna excerpt that piece out. That's how I want to be remembered. Greg, thank you very much.
I really genuinely
have the eulogy written.
Yes,
but I don't want you to see that as a negative. I mean, that,
is there a negative connotation?
I'm not
sure. Wait a second. I see there is. No, I'm also going to make that my ringtone. It's brilliant.
Okay. Well,
thank you very much. It's good to be here.
It is.
Despite everything you say, Greg, it's always good to see you.
Thank you very much indeed. Come here. I want to talk about Hocus Pocus 2 on Disney Plus because you have caught this, I think, Fionnuala.
Yeah.
I presume there'd be a
is
great
there a cure?
Deal of defense. You're on form today. Might break that microphone again. I presume there's a lot of loyalty to original Hocus Pocus. So
well, to be honest, that would make me watch it. I really enjoyed the Hocus Pocus.
So then there's a great pressure to make it right.
Yeah, and it came out the Hocus Pocus came out at the right time for me, with my daughter was at the right age to sit down and kind of watch it as a family and that kind of a thing. And it just really was kind of a fun. There wasn't too many scares in it if you have kids that are a little bit scary. And now, after 20, I think it's
take it that was a bit of a slip if you've got kids that are a little bit scary.
Well,
I think you meant that might be easily scared.
Yes,
I think we've all got scary kids.
That's exactly what I meant. But some kids kind of, I think, take things on board.
Of course, yeah.
No, but that is exactly, no. So that's what I obviously really liked the original movie. I always had a fondness for it, and it was just something really kind of different about it. So it's 20 years later, and now they've suddenly come up and made the sequel, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, "Oh, this must be insane." Awesome. They decided to wait 20 years, particularly when the core that the three main characters in it are women, one would imagine that 20 years later they would look slightly different than they did. One would be wrong,
right? Okay. They didn't use deep fakes either. They actually had role.
They actually were in this role. It was slightly weird. They actually looked exactly the same. I was like, they may actually be witches, these women. we need to check that out further. Somebody needs to do a documentary on it. But look, if you've seen the first one, this one is a bit of a pale comparison.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe it's because the first one was so original to have these kind of a three sisters in a sort, because the last time it had a few scares in it, but it also had a few laughs in it. It also, because Bette Midler was in it, there was a song. It sort of just had, it ticked a lot of boxes if you were into that kind of stuff. A real Disney kind of a feel-good film. This one just sort of stepped back a little bit. It pulled up all the kind of old stories again. Suddenly, this young, as it is with all these things, the young virgin is tricked into lighting the candle, and all of a sudden the sisters arrive and they want to exert their revenge over Salem for the way they've been treated over the years. And it did have the three ladies in it. They did give exactly what they gave back in the day. They looked exactly like they did back in the day, which was every once in a while disturbing when you see them leaping around the place and think they're 20 years older. I mean, I don't know, Bette Midler must be in her 60s now at least. She looked awesome, even as a witch. But it just was, it just lacked a little bit from the first one. But if you haven't seen the first one, I definitely recommend it. You want to sit down with your kids, tell your kids you're going to watch like a little spooky story. It's more scary with a thunder and lightning kind of an idea rather than anything,
Scooby-Doo stuff, is it?
It's a little bit like that. The way
I watched an episode of Scooby-Doo the other day, the new incarnation of it, and I would have been terrified if I was a young person watching it. So it all depends on the child, doesn't it?
Man, there you go. No, well, this one now, I think there's not really much jumping out at you as such. It's more kind of the way the music and that little bit builds up a little bit of tension, and that's where you kind of get it. So it's perfect for if you as I said, if you have scary kids, if you have kids that can be a bit nervous things, or you're worried about kids that can have nightmares and that. This is a perfect movie to sit down now at Halloween and kind of snuggle in with a bit of popcorn.
Did it go straight to Disney Plus, or did it have a cinematic release?
No, it was straight Disney Plus that made it. And
I wonder, did they make that decision after they seen the finished product, or was that always the plan?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as good at the research as Michael.
I don't like talking about women's age, but you've brought it up. 76 Bette Midler is.
Oh my God! Wow. We should all see her GP. Unbelievable. Let's all go and see her GP.
Right.
That's awesome.
By the way, we have another very limited edition 9 till noon Highland Radio mug up for grabs this week. I know we've had 2 delighted winners so far. You can actually become the third person to own one of these. Just get involved in the conversation. Just have yours say what you've been watching, what you're doing, what you're looking forward to. If you agree or disagree with Micheal and Fionnuala, get involved in the conversation through 086 60 25,000 or comment on social media, and we'll pick one listener at random, by the way, so it doesn't matter how nice or cruel you are, it doesn't increase or decrease your chances at all. Okay, so what are we then giving Hocus Pocus 2 on Disney Plus out of 10?
Well, if I'm taking it as a movie on its own, I definitely give it a solid 7.5.
Yes.
It's only really when you compare it to, having watched the first one. And sometimes it's hard to even know what that's of, because you can be watching something that is perfect. Like I said, at the time the first one came out, my daughter was of that age. We sat around and watched it kind of like as a family or whatever. And that can add to your nostalgia of something as well, which you don't necessarily feel then when you're older. So definitely as a standalone, I would put it a good 7.5.
Right, okay. Any of you out there either, by the way, watched a film called Lou? It's on Netflix. Alison Janev plays Lou Adele. I can't do this, so I'm not going to try to review something, all right? But I suppose the nearest thing I would associate to is like she's playing a sort of like female Liam Neeson. Do you know what I mean? A badass that you don't realize is a badass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Her neighbor's daughter is kidnapped. And
it's so you're the girl from The West Wing, isn't it? Because I do mean to watch it. Yeah.
Oh, Alison Janney.
Yeah, Alison Janney.
Oh, she's fabulous.
Did I get her name wrong?
Well, Alison Janney is the woman that plays
Janev. Janny, otherwise missing because I've increased the size of the text on my phone.
Ooh,
I said
being
Janet.
glasses, buddy,
I went and got glasses.
You just have to accept it as
By
part
the
of
way,
it.
brilliant. I have- yeah,
that
she-
reminds me
she's
of the
not
coffee
really- 'cause
morning
I was
in Specsavers coming up, by the way, if you want to support the Northwest Cancer whilst you reminded me
Yes.
of glasses.
Yes.
It turns out I don't need glasses, really. I know. So Janny, yes, she's in it. She plays she's a standalone female character, but as the nearest thing I could associate with would be sort of the Liam Neeson.
That's
type
what everybody
character.
has. I've read a few reviews and they've said it's kind of a female taken.
Yeah, so interesting to see what the views of the public.
That
out there.
sounds very good.
It's not. It's
Oh, no.
no, it's not
Oh.
because I think they could have made her far more kick-ass. If I can say that, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
So anyone out there watch that? What did you think? 08660
Lou.
25,000 LOU.
Lou.
It was enjoyable, but I just thought it could have been. I just thought she could have been. Anyway, maybe.
Okay.
I
No,
might
it's
have
only
missed
get
something.
the reviews I've read in it because that's what put me off because I love her. She is
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
Alison Janney. I've loved her all the way back through it. She has. There's been some kind of very pluck sort of reviews about it that it's a bit like Taken, which I was never a big fan of in the first place. And that apparently the acting is strong in it, but the
Yeah.
story and stuff like
the
that.
story, and then in the middle, it's kind of a little bit convoluted. I think people who like Taken might watch it, and I think they might be disappointed.
Oh.
And you need to be watching it in HD too. It's very dark in terms of the cinematography. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you want to be able to see stuff.
Well, it's
Lots
kind
of
of
it's
like
good.
it's
It's shot
Wild
lovely.
West looking,
and
but
it's
it's
shot
not Wild
lovely,
West.
but
It's in the wilderness or something.
I just think if Liam Neeson went in, or your likes of the fella out of
Bob Odenkirk did one. Nobody, that one, yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Right, those guys were,
Full
almost
on.
indestructible.
Full on, yeah.
Maybe it's more realistic the way she is. I don't know. But anyway, what do the listeners think? That's what I'm interested in, of course, as well as you two. Right, Quantum Leap's been on this list for so long. I want to get rid of it now.
Yeah, of course.
So it's no, don't say that.
Yeah, well,
like,
of course, yeah.
Don't say like I meant it. I didn't mean it. But
Well,
know
I mean,
you're-
it has been. All right. So basically, yeah, Quantum Leap, it's not airing over here yet, but I've been able to see the brand new episodes.
Well, I can sell you a Fire Stick if you're interested. Joke, everybody.
Joking. And I know that there would be fans because the original Quantum Leap ran for 5 seasons in the early 90s. It was a big thing. Everybody was watching it. Everybody loved it. So I'm sure there are people out there who are interested in my take for the sake of a take on the new show. So I'm watching it every week. I'm definitely not madly in love with this show, and I can encapsulate without any spoilers what my issue is with the new show. What I like is the new guy is very good, and all the stories so far have been the sort of stories that the original show would do. So I'm on board with all of that. It's exactly the same type of stories, and I like the new guy. What they've done with this show, however, is they've given him a backroom team in the present day, and every week we cut away from the time travel to spend time with all these scientists and these people talking about the situation. Now, from a production point of view, I would imagine this is probably cheaper because it means they have a standing set to work off. It means that they have a control room and they have offices and they have 5 other actors who can, carry the episode. And they get about a third, if not a half of each episode. And they bore me. I don't care about the people in the present day. I just want to go back and see Ben time travelling and find him like the same sort of thing Sam Beckett used to be in. Like he's in a boxing ring and someone's punching him and he doesn't know what's going on. But it turns out he has to save his brother and blah, blah, blah. And they're good stories, but I'm bored by the present day. So I'm giving it a sort of a 6 because I wish there was more of the time travel.
So if you're saying to someone that's listening to this and they go, well, I might give that a go,
Yeah.
would you say, do you know what? Go to the first episode of the original Quantum Leap.
Oh, yeah.
It might be not in a 16:9 ratio,
Yeah.
and it might not be in full HD.
But
But if you like the concept, watch
the original.
maybe.
And it's on every day on, is it Sky something? They have it on. It's on the original. They're in season 2 or 3 at the moment. I was checking it up. Another thing about the new American version is the ratings are not great. The show that it replaced from last season, which was cancelled after 13 weeks, it's getting slightly lower ratings.
Right.
So that bodes not well for it to last beyond 13 episodes. But I'm going to stick with it for the 13 because it's Quantum Leap. And one thing I'll definitely say about the new show, it's not a bad show. I just wish that they had exclusively focused on the past.
The question I want to ask, but it's a stupid question.
No.
If you had never watched the original, would you be raving about this? But I mean,
That's a really
it's
good
like-
question. No, the answer is because I like time travel anyway. Doctor Who, coming up soon. Because I like time travel shows, I probably would feel the same.
I don't want to
because
see those two words on any of these sheets of paper anytime soon.
But I would say I'd still be bored by all the stuff. If you're
but
telling
they're probably
a story,
saying, how can we make this different? Now I haven't seen it, but say, well, what about if it was a wee bit coordinated? Like, in other words, can they direct where he goes, or
no?
The original one did occasionally go back to
very seldom.
Very seldom. But I would have thought with this one they wouldn't have needed to do anything to make the story better, because
do you know
when the original one was made, like, I'm going to say graphics, but I don't mean graphics. Like, the way they could do this, like how they could bring him back. Because they always brought him back to a moment in history.
Yes.
And
how often in the episodes did he look in the mirror? And they did that,
at the start of every episode.
I had to do that. I had to see his reflection in the beginning of every episode. Because he could be a woman, or he could be a woman or a man, or he could be any race or anything like that.
And the new show is doing the same.
Some big things in it.
Well, somebody said to me, a friend of mine said on Facebook, or they had posted rather, that it was woke before anything was woke, because
woke is actually a commonly used word now that's completely missed.
Probably. But it was a show that was aware. It was socially aware. It was a show that was very much. But you know what's the problem with in the last 20 years? Much as I love CSI, the impact of CSI on television has been that so many shows that don't need to have an extended supporting cast are given. That means that there's a wacky scientist guy, there's a sensitive older man, there's like a young hot woman.
Actor seeks cull of actors.
Well, and plus now they have to do. Sometimes I feel like they're looking for places to stick in diversity.
Yes,
and you're like, I fully appreciate that we want to have. We want to have diversity, but don't be creating places to drop them in and say, "Oh my God, this is great."
Yeah.
I know, and I can understand why. I was listening to a bit of radio during the week, and I don't want to phrase it because I don't want to phrase it incorrectly, but that was being heralded and celebrated, something close to what you're saying, and it was 3 white people sitting around going, "Hey, this is great." Do you know what I mean? And I think it was tone deaf, really. But anyway,
okay, I can imagine.
No, I mean, we all want to see diversity, and
of course,
that kind of stuff, but there's no point in just dropping a character in for absolutely no reason.
That's exactly.
Or having a character there that's a completely on the edge of things, and then suddenly we end up in the middle of an episode, in the middle of nowhere, the series, having a 10-minute conversation about their sexuality, just so that we know that there's somebody there.
Well, there's 2 obvious examples, and 2 shows that I watch. Star Trek Discovery does this terribly, and the Orville is so good. It's so good. It nails.
I missed the Orville. I really enjoyed that.
The Orville does it authentically, and it never feels like it's contrived. It feels like they actually have a point to make. Whereas Star Trek Discovery is just like, we put this character in and we'll be able to do scenes about this thing.
Yeah.
Dharma's not in any of your lists either. Another big Netflix show. I know you have a lot to watch. It's
everybody's watching it.
Yeah.
What was it? I missed the name of it.
Dharma. It's a 10-part on Jeff. But it's not about him. It's about his victims, and I know that's great. And
it's getting quite a backlash about inaccuracies. Did you see that?
I mean, it is
quite a
backlash. Can you be? And we've seen so much stuff. I mean, we had the actual tapes. Netflix is obsessed with him. They have like the tapes of his actual interviews when he was arrested. There was another 3-parter about how he was arrested and caught and the police officers. Then there was another thing about him being interviewed, like in the manhunt type situation. You're like, in fairness, what this man did was horrendous, and they've made this kind of I just know it's not like.
There must be an audience there.
There is, but you see,
all of my daughter's
is
friends are all watching it because they just can't believe that it's true, and I'm like.
But my son said to me, because I didn't realise, when you don't realise your age. I think this happened in the late 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, early 90s, sorry.
Yeah.
And he says, "Dad, do you remember, what was the reaction to this story at the time?" And I think, wow, I was actually of an age that I didn't even know about it. I never heard about it. Maybe I wasn't watching or consuming news, but I don't remember. I don't really remember.
We weren't watching the BBC the way we watch it now, or watching the news. And news wasn't as worldwide. Yeah. I do remember him watching him on the actual news being brought out, and I remember knowing about it because I
remember knowing about it. Yeah,
the thing I feel bad about it is
like interesting.
It's horrific, right?
Horrific.
But the focus is on the victims and the victims' experiences. Okay, and to some extent, like, I like the sort of investigative stuff, getting caught and all that kind of stuff. And maybe I'm being a bit dispassionate here. but it goes on it goes on for a long time. I know it's
Well,
still
no, I agree
episodes,
with you. I know what you mean. I also like investigative shows, and it almost sounds like they're just dwelling on the misery. Is that kind of what they're doing?
Or maybe they might argue they're giving the victims
Voice.
a voice and giving the police a slap for ignoring the signs,
Hmm.
and also maybe speaking out for the African American community a little bit, who would justifiably feel somewhat, aggrieved by the investigation. But I don't know. I watched it and I watched it to the end, but I was glad it was over. Do you know that sort of way? But
yeah,
anyway.
that's what everybody. That's most people that have said to me that I've watched it. They're like, because I'm very full of lovely, light and fluffy TV programs that I watch, and I keep getting texts. I've just finished Armour. What am I watching? Give me something that just cleanses the mind.
Hocus pocus too.
Exactly.
But not
Something
if you've got
that
scary children.
Yeah.
Scary children. How is Evan Peters? I bet he's brilliant. The lead. I
don't know.
He's a good actor.
But
No?
you see, if you watch a lot of the stuff about Dharma, right, there was certain times he spoke the way the lead actor does, but the rest of the time he didn't always speak like that. Do you know what I mean? There was quite some variation in his character. He quite often didn't wear the glasses that, particularly through the court case, he didn't wear the glasses. But I just thought he got a impression of him and stuck through it.
Okay.
There is no variation in him at all.
Right.
During his horrible acts, to when he's pretending to be happy, to when he's fooling.
It's the same.
There's just no change. But
and
obviously,
he apparently was an extremely charming, attractive. Very attractive to people when people met him, even though he didn't have a lot of close friends and stuff like that. Obviously, as these type of people don't. But that's why, do you remember they did one before and they put, I think it was Zac Efron or somebody, and they had this beautiful person playing him. Another Netflix one that they did. But apparently that was the thing with him, that even when everything was going on, even when they were digging up the pipes and doing everything, all the neighbours were like, no way, absolutely, no way.
Yeah. And then, of course, you had a huge fan base, as a lot of these people
Oh,
do,
God,
whilst
the
in
ladies
prison.
The ladies are...
Yeah, right. So would I recommend it? A caller wants to know really what they want is a mug. Would I recommend it? The answer to that would be yes. But would I recommend it to me? And the answer to that would be no, because
That's deep.
Yeah, it is disturbing, and you do get the horror of what his victims must have went through. But so yeah. Okay, I'm saying yes, I'd recommend it.
Yeah, well, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. Yeah.
Right, Lou was very good, and I thought she was very kick-ass. Okay, yeah, I'm very conscious that sometimes my mood changes how I.
Yeah, but we're
watch
all.
a
No,
film.
I think we're all like. I'm very much like at certain times. Like later on at night, I've said before, I just prefer something light, like a Starsky and Hutch is my go-to. I don't want a heavy thing.
See, most
the
of the
mood
film,
does affect.
I can't explain why I feel the way I do without sort of giving it away. And there's a journey there as well, which I can't give away, and that's done quite well.
Yeah.
I just think she could have just been more brutally kick-ass. But anyway, Greg, I'm watching Star Wars Andor at the moment on Disney Plus. Just wondering if any of you seen it. Not only have I not seen it, I've never heard of it.
Well, I'm well aware of its existence, but I.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but
All right,
beyond that,
Michael is aware of
its existence. But I haven't watched any of the Star Wars TV shows, and I don't see myself doing that anytime soon. Over to you, Fionnuala.
No, it lost me as well. I do love a bit of outer space.
But would in the past, would any sort of Star Wars film or program not have been massive that everybody's talking
Oh no,
about?
there's loads of them now.
There's loads of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing about Star Wars is, and I think for an awful lot of your common fans, they kind of shot themselves in the foot when he went back and he started doing the prequels, and there was a couple of them, and then he went from the prequels to going back into the future again, and then he went somewhere in the middle, and then he went. And I was like, I don't know where Rogue sits. I don't know where. There was another one that came out.
I've never seen that one.
Someone on Reddit.
Then I
will tell
spent an hour with my brother-in-law while he tried to explain it to
I
me
know.
in vast
I know some-
detail.
yeah.
And I went, and I'm out. I'm sticking
I know
with
some
my-
hardcore fans
And I
as
haven't
well,
spoken to him since.
That's great. Yeah, I know they've lost a lot of the periphery kind of people that weren't.
Yeah, they've lost me. Andor is getting good reviews, but it's not. I know that in the streaming charts in America last week, the number one show, deservedly, is She-Hulk. And I know that Andor is like
God.
number
How
4.
dare he say that to you?
It's 4.
What's 2 and 3?
I think the Lord of the Rings one is 2 or 3, and I think Dahmer was 2 or 3. So I think it was like
Yeah, I get
Hulk,
you.
Dahmer, Lord of the Rings, and then it was Star
about
Wars
5?
Andor. Oh, don't.
But Disney
Text your numbers between 1 and 10. And you can win them all.
You can win them all.
randomly if you can.
So
enter it.
it's getting good reviews, but it's not the biggest thing on TV, and I think they've saturated the market.
How much would you say? Sorry, go on.
No. The thing is that it's very difficult to jump in to their things. I find, anyways, is like they did Boba Fett, and they've done all those. They've done a few of them there. But like, if I don't know who that character already is,
I got you.
They're a lot of the characters.
I don't think then you're very loyal, because if we talk about the Marvel stuff, isn't it Marvel?
Yes, Marvel.
Yes.
You know, you could be your brother, or was it your brother-in-law that
Oh
could
God, and could
describe every
100%.
character.
100%.
I mean, you guys talk about characters that are being just dropped for a film 4 years away. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose it depends on which.
You're passionate. I'm
absolutely.
passionate about Marvel, and I'm passionate about Star Trek.
Yes.
And I watch all the Star
so much
Treks.
space as
There's only
well,
more space. Yeah, Star Wars just isn't for me.
Right. Let me see here. What was I going to say? Something else. Oh yeah, very briefly before we take a break. How much would you say Blackbird made in the British and Irish cinemas last week?
Well, you had
Michael
looked.
Flatley's film. Do you know?
Fionnuala had. We had looked. You had looked it up at the start, and it was like 2.5 million.
Yeah, but how much did it get made last week?
Did it have a big surge?
Probably
I hope
half
so.
of it's probably dwindling.
It took over 100 grand. I think that's all right.
That is
but
all
it
right.
was phrased in the report I was listening to as it was bombed.
No.
Bombed. I think
But
at this
yours out
stage.
it's been out for weeks.
yeah.
That's
now.
what I'm saying.
No.
I was wondering what you guys thought, because you would be more cinema focused than I am. I thought, wow, he did another 100 grand last
That's
week.
all
I think
right.
That's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
I mean, it's 6 or 7 weeks out.
He's
I
definitely
think.
made back his. Wasn't it 3 million we saw at the budget?
Yeah.
Not that he cares,
And
but he's
anyone
made
watched
it back.
last week is doing it on word of mouth too. They're not
Yeah.
doing it off the back of posters.
I'm still
or
putting the word out. I
I-
still think it's great fun. I
You
really
are
am.
responsible.
I'm telling people it's like
I
it's
know.
great crack.
Anyway.
Me too.
It's great
I tell
crack.
everybody they should go and see it.
It's great crack.
And in the cinema as well, because I think you cannot be distracted by going to make a cup
I'm
of tea. 'cause
crossing
that'll
my fingers
ruin
for
it.
Blackbird 2.
Okay,
Oh, that's
listen,
definitely happening.
We'll get you a glass of water or something. Okay, we'll be back with more from Micheal and Fionnuala after the break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans.
My family needs refreshing. So we're off to Centre Parks.
Come on, rediscovering the great outdoors.
Re-energising.
On the zip wire over the lake.
Recharging in Aquasana Spa.
Refueling at Hook's American Bar and Grill.
Reconnecting with each other. Centre Parks. Family refreshed.
Let Kelly's help heat your home this winter. Buy 1 bag of coal at Kelly Centra in Letterkenny and you'll be entered into a draw to win a full ton of coal, with the winner announced on the 1st of November. There's also great value gas, briquettes, kindling and home heating oil, all at Kelly Centra and Forecourt, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Are you completing your UCAS application? Caffrey offers degree courses in food, agriculture, equine and horticulture. Come along to Caffrey's October Open Days. Talk to students, meet staff and explore the practical facilities at Northern Ireland's specialist agri-food and land-based college. Book now to attend an open day at Greenmount Campus, Enniskillen Campus and Loughry Campus. Register online at cafre.se.uk or visit Discover Caffrey on Facebook.
The County Donegal Blackfish Sheep Breeders Association's 65th annual show and sale of Shearling Rams and Ram Lambs will take place at Ballybuffet and Stranurler Mart this Friday the 7th of October at 2 p.m, with the sale on Saturday the 8th at 11:30 a.m.
Are you renovating or extending your home and looking for quality products at a bargain price? Donegal Tile Centre, together with Rossview Interiors, are having a mega 2-day sale today, Friday the 7th, and tomorrow, Saturday. There's wall and floor tiles at less than half price. Vanity units, bathroom suites and bathroom furniture, all at ridiculously low prices. Get a massive 40% discount off a huge selection of light fittings and pictures. Also, see the range of real leather sofas, dining sets and occasional furniture, all at rock bottom prices. So come along today or tomorrow to Rossview Business Park, just off the Polestar roundabout Letterkenny, and pick up a real bargain.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
At Creasla Supermarket, we pride ourselves in offering you all your dairy essentials in one place, with great offers and choice in our deli, butcher's counter and across our large range of fresh produce, with opening hours to suit. Your nearby store, Creasla Supermarket, is your one-stop shop for convenience.
The Donegal Silage Competition with Homeland and Nutrius Animal Feeds is back for 2022 and entries are now open. Entry is free and includes 5 categories: dairy, beef, sheep, round bale and new entrant. First prize a €300 Homeland voucher and second prize a €200 Homeland voucher in each category. For full entry details visit homeland.ie.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials, McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Hi, I'm Oliver Callan, and I know about impersonations. When they're bang on, it's hard to tell the difference from the real thing, believe me. Right now, as people and businesses are moving bank accounts, fraudsters are taking advantage by impersonating companies and organisations you trust. So, you need to be fraud smart. Never update new banking details without contacting the sender directly, and never click on links in emails or texts. Remember, double check and contact direct. Visit fraudsmart.ie.
Letterkenny CDP 21st birthday celebrations begin with an open day and a trip down memory lane this Monday in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. On Thursday 13th, it's an intercultural fashion show in the Radisson Blu Hotel, followed by music and dancing to Martin Orr. And on Saturday 15th, it's a family fun day in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. Everyone welcome. For a full programme of free events, see Letterkenny CDP on Facebook.
Businesses, order your gift vouchers for Christmas now from BizPrint the printers. Also personalised calendars, Christmas cards, diaries, draw tickets and much more at great prices from BizPrint, Port Road, Letterkenny. See bizprint.ie.
Wild Atlantic Way adventures await you this autumn with a midweek escape to the luxury Radisson Blu Hotel and Spa Sligo from just €125 with complimentary breakfast each morning. Indulge in afternoon tea overlooking Sligo Bay. Relax with a treatment at the spa. Enjoy a delicious meal in the brasserie. Sit back and relax in Waves Bar or surround yourself with the best of Sligo's outdoor pursuits right on your doorstep. Book now at radsligo.com for the perfect autumn midweek escape.
All right, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. More from Micheal and Fionnuala in a moment, but I want to say good morning to a contestant on E4's The Big Blowout, and it is Castlefinn's own Raymond Bryson. Good morning to you, Raymond. How are you keeping?
Good morning, Greg. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
Congratulations on getting this gig and getting through the first round.
Oh, thank you.
How did you get in? Well, tell us, when did you leave Castlefinn, and was it to pursue your career as a hairstylist, was it?
So I moved to London maybe 11 years ago, Greg, yeah, and I was to do hairdressing. I was in Dublin prior to that, but I was studying at university, and then I came over to London then to start hairdressing.
And what's it like being involved in this show?
It was a great experience. Like, I made lifelong friends. It was quite challenging at times, but overall it was quite a fun experience.
And this is about a group of you, I think 11 in total. And you are, is it like, the Great Bake Off, but you're doing hairstyles instead of cakes or something like that? Is it almost like that?
It literally is like the Bake Off, but just switch out the cakes for hairdressing and hairs.
Very good. And what was your first, can you describe your first hairdo that got you through the first round?
So the
I'd let you demonstrate it on me, but I mean, you don't have enough. You wouldn't have a great deal to work with, Raymond.
So they gave us a brief for our first week, and it was like we had to use a prominent time in our lives that was a reflection of us and to showcase our work. And so the first one didn't quite go to plan as much as I thought, because we were still kind of trying to, the whole cast was trying to understand actually the whole layout of the show and what was going on, the production team. But it was basically like I used the reference from alopecia, having alopecia, and I tried to create this kind of quite conceptual, avant-garde, abstract hair. I didn't actually go to plan, but yeah, that was my original idea for the first.
And I mean, you know, we can talk a bit about how important. I don't think my partner's a hairdresser, so I understand how important hair is to people, and I don't think, you know, for those who it's not important to, they don't get it necessarily. Do you know what I mean? But I think hairdressers and hairstylists certainly do. But then, with your experience as a young person, with you having alopecia for 2 years, was it important to you to try and incorporate that element of you into, of all things, hairstyling?
Yeah, well, I thought like definitely it was a great opportunity for me to be able to showcase that on such a like wide platform. And I thought like now's the time. When they asked us, when they gave us this brief initially, I thought it's fitted so well, because obviously I'm a hairdresser. I had alopecia. The two of them go hand in hand. And just to kind of shine some light on it, because obviously even a lot of hairdressers don't know a lot about alopecia. So I thought it was like a great platform that I actually could bring that to light and talk about it, and then use that as my theme for the initial episode.
Yeah, exactly. And the more people have that conversation in public, it's more relatable to different groups of people. I mean, if I'm thinking about who's spoken out about alopecia publicly in Britain in the past, you know what I mean? It's often females or people that are older or what have you, and you sort of are going to be more relatable to a different cohort of people. And the more that do that, there's a great comfort or support for people with alopecia if it's more relatable, I think.
Yeah, true, because obviously I meet lots of clients every day and see lots of heads of hair, and I didn't even have a lot of knowledge on it prior to me having it. So obviously then, now post me having it, I've got a lot more in-depth knowledge of it, and just talking to people on a general basis.
Yeah, I think Gail Porter is the only person
I
can think of that was really sort of, you know, out there on this issue. So has it all been recorded yet, Raymond? I'm not going to entice you into giving anything away, because that would spoil the fun for everyone. But are you still recording, or is it all in the bag now and we just have to watch and wait and see?
Yeah, it's all been recorded. It's all done and dusted. So we filmed it all early this year. So you can watch it all now every Monday night.
I have a few questions. I would like trick questions, like, you know, how many hairstyles did you do? But I'm not. I'm not going to be like that. So it's on Monday night on E4, and then probably at different times every other day on E4 as well, because you know they tend to rerun things. And I presume it's on More 4 as well.
Yeah, it'll be on all four then. So
all four. Sorry, yeah.
Like you can watch it on catch up and stuff like that.
All right. Do you get home often, Raymond?
I probably get home maybe a few times a year, maybe sometimes summer, and then back at Christmas time again.
Lovely. And you're loving life over there?
Yeah, it's a great life. It's a busy life, but all good.
Yeah, you like that. All right. Good stuff. Well done, Raymond. Keep flying the flag for Donegal. Take care of yourself.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Raymond Bryson, a contestant on the big blowout. Unfortunately, Fionnuala, they do not cut through the hair at some point, and you have to guess whether or not it's a cake. But listen, like every time I try and take the you-know-what from you, it ends up being probably a decent idea for a programme.
That sounds like a good idea for a show. Yeah, I was going to say pitch that immediately.
In fairness. There's a new cake one coming to Netflix as well. I can't wait.
I watch all the Marvel series with my teenage daughter. We both gave up on She-Hulk after 2 pitiful episodes, which I think is a sort of where Fionnuala
I've
is
stuck
at.
with it now, and it has improved a little bit, but I'm losing you completely.
I love it. Love it. 10 out of 10 from me. I love it.
And as the top TV program at the moment.
Number 1 streaming show.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean, you know,
quality,
just because an awful lot of people believe something, it doesn't make it really very, very good.
Have a facts and opinions type
deep.
conversation.
That's deep.
You know what I'm on
about?
No, it's quite true. Just because there's a mass point.
Look, there's loads of people like me that just watch it because I need to. I could never not finish
a Marvel show.
A Marvel show because it might.
The big excitement for Marvel heads is Werewolf by Night this weekend. It's a one-off. It's getting rave reviews. Of course, Just because reviewers say it's good doesn't mean it is good, Greg. We know that. Deep. But no, the reviews for this are amazing, and I am counting the hours until I watch Werewolf by Night.
Right, okay.
Halloween
That's
stuff
coming
really
up.
early, don't they now?
I was surprised they didn't hold off for another week or two. Yeah.
Are we going to review Daniel O'Donnell's horror flick?
I know.
Did not know it was coming out?
Did not know.
No, apparently they were shooting scenes on the streets of Dunlow, and there's a...
For a video? Is it like another video?
No, well, I don't know what it is. He's worked with the same people who worked on the La Di Da.
Oh, that was a great
video.
Wow, it must be a video.
I'm not sure if it's a short feature or a music video or whatever.
Okay.
But anyway.
That video is fantastic. So presumably the bar is, there's a lot of expectation so around this one, whatever it is, whether it's a short or it must be a video.
Well, he does nothing that's not done well and professionally. And
agreed.
And what I was like about him is he doesn't mind kind of taking the mick of his persona,
Mhm.
you know, that sort of way. So, which is always
Very smart.
entertaining.
He will defy the critics once again. You can be
Yeah.
sure of that. Right. Okay. What should we talk about next on your list? What about something on terrestrial TV? This England on Channel 4. Kenneth Branagh.
Well, I started watching it because I haven't really been watching much this week, and I said, "Oh God, I better watch something." So I
Always a good reason.
I know. I mean, I'm deep in my mills and booms at the moment. So I've started watching This England, and I've kind of got off Kenneth Branagh a little bit. So I was reluctant to get involved in it. A lot of people kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to watch it because Kenneth Branagh is in it." He's done those two movies that he did for I can't remember was it Disney or for the other one, but it was like Death on the Nile, the two Agatha Christie's that he did, The Orient Express and Death on the Nile. He upset me with Belfast because I really thought it was going to be awesome, and I wasn't amazed. There was a lot of bits and pieces that didn't
work.
That didn't work for me, much as people love it. So I was kind of, oh God, Kenneth Branagh now doing this. But actually, he's not horrendous at it. Kenneth Branagh plays Boris Johnson in it, and this
that's what this is.
That's
Right,
what
I
this
saw the
is.
trails for it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is Kenneth Branagh playing Boris Johnson. It starts in probably November, December of 2019 when he gets elected as the leader, and then they tried to oust him shortly afterwards, and then they called for the general election. He wins the general election, so it kind of covers all that in, which would have been sort of late 2019 if I'm thinking correctly. It's very much then moves then swiftly into 2020, and he's like, oh, 2020 is going to be our year, let's get Brexit done and all this type of stuff, and they're moving away, tipping away nicely at their Brexit, thinking their lives could not be better. Dominic Cummings is walking around like a man who's won, and he's it's all about them, all the whole thing, and then all of a sudden, just kind of in the background, you can hear some of the staffers suddenly start going, what's the story with this virus that's going on there in China? Is this something we need to worry about? And then it just goes right kind of suddenly after the first episode, you're in the middle of the virus. It is done in a very unusual kind of a way, because I expected this to be like, do you remember after Brexit Channel 4 did one as well? And again, I only went to that because of the lead guy, because it was Benedict Cumberbatch that ended up playing Dominic Cummings in it. But in that was all just kind of very much acted, and it was very much in, if anybody ever watched, BBC did a thing like the Olympics, and they did, I think it used to be called CW4 or something like that, which is some area in London, and it was very much in that kind of a style. This is done completely differently, and so you've got Boris, and he's going along there, and it kind of gives you a little insight into his personal life and his time with his now wife Carrie, and they're expecting a baby, and you're kind of getting a little insight into his. I mean, I feel desperately sorry for their dog. If it wasn't for the staff, nobody'd walk the thing. It's like,
but do you know how it's very recent history, and even as you're talking, I can almost remember the press conferences and them playing this down and that down.
Yeah,
and because
it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
There was so many leaks from Number 10 at that time, and then we had Cummings speaking publicly and sort of outlining what was going on at that time. What does a dramatisation of this bring to it? Is it just the fact that it kind of presents what we know?
If this, well, the thing what they've done with this, which is different, is they also have different, I won't say characters, because it's supposed to be done like as if it's a documentary, it's kind of a mockumentary type of a thing.
Interesting.
But they have like a nursing home that they go to, They have 2 or 3 hospitals, and they have some hospital staff. They have people who've actually just general people on the street who contacted COVID. They, so they're kind of and they show their families, and they're in their houses, and they're afraid to leave their houses, or trying to get to the GP, and the GP wouldn't take you unless you had, an appointment prior to that, and people thinking, oh no, I'll be grand, and then suddenly, being so ill. And they talk about, when they built the Nightingale Hospital which I couldn't remember whether they actually ended up using it or not.
I don't believe they did.
But it's a lot. So that's what I'm saying about it, which made it different, is instead of it just being, like a yes minister type thing or whatever, just concentrating on
is
the
it all
part.
dramatised, or is there a mixture of?
No, it's all dramatised, except then for bits of it, which is the only bits I don't like about it, which is they start going into, like, when he's asleep, he's suddenly dreaming about stuff, and I'm like,
really?
and it's like flashes of. The thing about it is it definitely had an agenda. Right now, I'm not a fan of arses. I'd say that hands up straight out. But this definitely had agenda of not being a fan of arses.
Yeah. And what about, how does Cummings come out of it then?
Oh, Cummings comes out of it terrible. He's he's bullying everybody. He's firing them for any pretext. They just did now where his wife got sick and he drove down to Dover or wherever he went that time in the car. But the thing, look at I started watching this and I was like, oh, I wouldn't watch this. It's too close to it. And now I'm 4 into it.
Right, okay.
And there's only 6 in it. And it is heart-wrenching to watch just when they do the general members of the public. When you see, like, people working in nursing homes having to leave their kids, all kind of clubbing in together. They're the only people there to hold hands with the other. I definitely think this is worth the watch. Had this been done closer to COVID, or when had it come out around that time, there may be a lynch mob outside Number 10. Like, I think it would be, and it would be detrimental to the Conservative Party. They better be hoping there isn't going to be an election, in my opinion, after.
I think they've already, their chances of re-elections, that boat's already sailed.
Wow. But if you are somebody who was personally impacted by COVID, this is a tough watch.
Wow.
Because I'm just kind of giving people the heads up with that. It does delve into a lot of loss. It delves into that idea of people not being able to be with their loved ones, things like that happened. If you don't think that COVID was a real thing, give this a watch and see how you come out the other side.
And it's interesting.
People have opinions on lots of different sides.
I didn't get that from the promos for it. Interestingly, it was Branagh doing a
100%, and actually he's not in it as much as you'd think. You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of want to let people know there's a lot more to it than that. A lot more than there was with the Brexit one, which was very much just, how do we do it?
Yeah.
But when you see them sitting around in the middle of all this crisis trying to come up with the catchphrase that's really going to work, that's going to sell, that's going to make it sound. If you're somebody that's actually lost somebody, I can only imagine. And then bits of it is just heartbreaking.
Yeah. And you know what? You don't have to necessarily go to Britain to see stuff that went on too.
No, absolutely. I'm sure if they did it for the Irish government, we'd all be there'd be a lot of similar conversations.
Yeah, for sure. Well done, Raymond, from Anne and Paddy Foy. All of Castle Finn must be so proud of you. Raymond is a real winner. I'm nearly finished watching The American Office, and I think it's brilliant for the fact it's just silly and all weird things you only wish you could do and get away with when working in an office. Quantum Leap brings me back to my younger years. The reboot is pretty good, says a caller. Watching House of Dragons, absolutely brilliant, says another. Yes, I watched Lou. It was fantastic, well worth watching. That comes in from Bernie. Another texter, though, says, yes, watched it, not great at all. We are really quite different, us humans, aren't we? Don't bother watching all this big screen stuff. Watch Simon, A Bloke in the Woods, or The Outdoor Boys on YouTube and show the children how to go camping and enjoy the outdoors. Well, listen, there's very few people under 20 watching scheduled TV. YouTube is their channel of choice. Rogue Agenta movie was already done on Netflix based on a true story of conman Robert Freegard. All right, keep them coming.
Yes, with Gemma Arterton,
Okay, let's take a quick break. Back with more in a moment.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie. Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Have you bought your NCBI Radio Bingo book yet? Contribute to this fantastic charity and be in with a chance to win daily cash prizes of €400. Books are now available from your local retailer.
Want unbeatable value from Sky? Here's the deal. Get Sky Broadband Plus, our award-winning Sky Q box for the amazing low price of just €39 a month. Super fast, super reliable broadband. And Sky Q with your apps and recordings. That's Sky Broadband Plus Sky Q for just €39 a month for 12 months. Now that is unbeatable value. Go to sky.ie. Availability subject to location. Offer does not include Sky TV subscription. New Sky customers only. Setup fees, minimum term and further terms apply. For more info, see sky.ie/speeds.
Is your current car ready for a change? If so, now is a good time to visit DMG Motors Donegal Town, as we have a great selection of quality approved Skoda and Seat used cars which are serviced, cleaned and ready to go. With finance available and cars to suit all budgets, let us help you upgrade your car today. For more information, call DMG Motors on 074 97 21 396 or view our current used stock on dmgmotors.ie.
We wish you a...
It may be too early for Christmas carols, but it's never too early to start the Christmas shopping. Save hundreds, possibly thousands of euros shopping online with Space Hub Derry. We provide a full virtual address mailbox service for all your Christmas parcels and post. Save hundreds, possibly thousands on customs charges this Christmas with Space Hub Derry. Call 04871 878077 for more details. Millions of Refo for top brands such as Diesel, Wrangler, Remus, Kingpin and Outrage Jeans. Also men's shirts and polo shirts in sizes up to 6XL. Check out their new workwear department with high-vis polo shirts, hoodies, jackets and tough stuff trousers and work boots at Millions of Refo. Christmas Club now open.
Dillon's Hotel, Letterkenny is the perfect place to celebrate special occasions. Dillon's exclusive function rooms cater for up to 120 guests for any occasion, from corporate celebrations, presentations and networking events, to milestone birthdays, anniversaries and retirement parties. There's audio-visual equipment, integrated PA systems and even a private bar. Dillon's Hotel, perfectly located in Letterkenny Town Centre with award-winning food and 5-star service. Call 91229977.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. From condensing boilers to heat pumps and underfloor heating, trust Grant to heat your home. Visit grant.eu.
Sunny spells and scattered showers for this afternoon. Heavy or thundery at times, becoming isolated towards evening, feeling cold with moderate to fresh and gusty west to southwest winds and afternoon highs of 10 to 15 degrees. The mug winner for today, Bernie, you are joining a very exclusive club. Thank you for your comment and winging to you. Ursula Rabbit Hall is begging for a mug on Facebook. Like, the dignity's out the window at this stage.
I told her she has to wait until Santi comes.
Okay, and maybe then. Maybe.
If she's good.
I might get an maybe
I want one with your two faces on it for
exactly.
Ursula.
I was just going to say I was going to put your face in print on it.
Ursula is Fionnuala's cousin, a lovely lady as well.
Yes.
Right, okay. We have a minute or two. Satan's Schools. When is Halloween, by the way? We don't need to do Halloween films.
No, we
yet,
don't
do
really
we?
need to know.
But Satan's Schools for Girls. Sorry, that was
they're out so early, though. It's
yeah,
just
well, these are
amazing.
old. I am a big fan of American TV movies of the 70s and 80s, and there's a new streaming platform that's legal, 100% free and legal, called Filmsy. And they've got some of these old movies. I watched Satan's School for Girls. The reason I watched it is it's a pop culture thing. Kate Jackson and Cheryl Ladd, a couple of years before they were both in Charlie's Angels, they were in this TV movie, which is a very old-fashioned, not really a horror, more of a thriller. A woman, her sister dies under mysterious circumstances. She goes undercover at this exclusive boarding school.
Is this the second girls' boarding school thing you've recommended in 2 weeks?
Is it?
I think it
Oh,
is.
you're thinking of Mallory Towers. Yeah, well, these are all in their 20s. These are all older
Oh, I'm
ladies.
not sorry. I was
They're
not.
all
I was not for a
I
moment
totally
suggesting
was.
any.
I totally was.
No, Fionnuala's been giving me grief off here about this. But I'm going to ignore both of you, and I will say that
I know.
this is a very old.
Conveniently landed on a schoolgirl TV program.
This is even one of my housemates. I mentioned that I watched Satan's School for Girls as well. He started sniggering. He was like, "What's this?" I was like, "It's an old-fashioned thriller." It's a big old building. There are
Baywatch now.
I'm ignoring you.
Baywatch
I'm ignoring you. There are power cuts, and she spends a lot of time with a lantern going around this spooky building, and the students start dying one by one.
Right.
It's a TV movie. There's no blood. There's no gore. It's not like that. It's just the tension of what's going on. And if you're into old TV shows like Charlie's Angels, you get to see Kate Jackson and Cheryl Ladd. You can see Roy Thinnes from the Invaders and Falcon Crest and stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I give it 6 or 7 out of 10.
Excellent.
It's old fashioned, as I say. No blood, no gore, and it's only an hour and 15 minutes, and it's like lots of creepy wandering around this place at night. And if you're interested in Filmsy, which is it's not brand new. It's actually been around a couple of years, but it's new to me, and it's free and it's legal.
And it's just
how do you watch it?
FILMZIE.
Why do they do that?
I know.
What would name something that you have to spell it to get people to find it? Why?
It doesn't make any sense.
I'm going straight
that.
film ZY. That's exactly what I'm doing. Or
I was putting SY at the bottom on
Film C. Okay.
I would definitely go.
It does look to have. I only gave it a quick cursory examination. It does look to have a. It says itself in its own. It's
schoolgirls.
He writes the stories.
He
writes the jokes.
I'm good. Anyway, I'm ignoring you.
Or
it's
the police.
mostly independent
Thank God
filmmakers
he's a good
and
friend.
small studios. I'm just blocking you both out.
Listen, thank you so much, Michael, as always, and thanks for being a great sport. Michael Leddy, writer and blogger. Fionnuala Rabbit, thank you so much as well for your input. And thank you to all of you who listened.